So with that, will you? I think Tim, you ready? Okay. Yep. I see you ready. So let's do it.
Janice, you are the host.
Oh.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. This is good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Township Council of Montclair, a regular meeting of December 15th. This meeting is being broadcast live on channel 34 and is streaming live on Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It's available on demand and will be rebroadcast. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America.
To America.
And
to the
republic
for which it's
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you very much, everybody. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councillor Cummings.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock.
Present.
Councillor Price Abrams.
Present.
Councillor Russo.
Present.
Councillor Schlager.
Here.
Councillor Yacobelis.
Present.
Mayor Spiller.
Present. Thank you very much. We will be having our public comment as well as our proclamation, new business, resolutions, etc. But tonight, and the reason for our earlier start than normal is because we also have a public hearing on our community development block grant applications. And with that, I will turn it over to our township planner, Ms. Talley, who will walk us through that process and then introduce the applicants who will give us presentations. She will go over all that format. And then colleagues, I know that she's also shared with us the score sheet and the documents that we will need to move forward. And Janice can tell us when she needs those back by. So with that, I will turn it over to our township planner.
Oh, great. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here virtually, and I'm looking forward to meeting those of you who I have not met in person shortly. So tonight is our public hearing for the 2021 CDBG fiscal year. We do this every year. Montclair Township from the federal government. These are HUD funds, which includes CDBG. So the CDBG allocation we get annually, we get about $320,000, and the procedure requires that the municipality review and prioritize the applications. And we are required to provide 2 public hearings. This is the second public hearing. So the CDBG projects, a little bit of background about CDBG. It's been around for about 50 years, I'm sorry. It's intended to advance and improve the conditions for low-income neighborhoods. By federal regulation, 85% of the funds are required to be for capital improvements. So that's part of the reason why we always include township projects within our realm of projects that we put forward to the county. So for this year, we have a couple of projects. One is making the bathroom at the Valley Road Fire Station ADA accessible. We tried to do this project 2 years ago, but we simply did not have enough funds allocated when we got the bids in. And the purpose is there is no ADA accessible bathroom at that location, and it is a voting location, a location for voters. So it is eligible because of that, because it makes it accessible and addresses a special needs population. It is eligible for CDBG funds. The second project we have is improvements to Hartley Street down in the 4th Ward. That is in an eligible area, and it is an eligible project, and it includes asphalt milling, resurfacing, replacing the curbs, etc. The majority of tonight's meeting is really to discuss and evaluate the service agency projects. This year we received applications from 9 organizations. There's a couple of new organizations this year who you'll be hearing from. So I've instructed the agencies to set aside 5 minutes for their presentation, including questions and answers from the council. So we're going to move pretty quickly through these applications. And I will bring them up in alphabetical order. So the first one tonight is Cope Center, and I would like to introduce Sue Seidenfeld, who's the executive director of Cope. And Sue, I just made you a panelist, so you should be able to unmute yourself and discuss your project.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Mayor and Town Council, for the opportunity to present before you. Some of you I've met before, and for those of you who are not familiar with Cope, Cope Center has been started in Montclair and has been providing prevention and counseling services to extremely low income individuals in our area. We're located, our main facility is at 104 Bloomfield Avenue, which is right around the corner from Glenfield School and right off Mission Street. So we have been a very positive force in the community for many years. I want to tell you a little bit about the project that we're requesting consideration for Montclair residents. It's called Positive Hope, and we sort of started it last year, but this year we have a whole new world around us. I don't have to tell you, all you have to do is look around to see all the impact that COVID has brought for us. And so for Cope, we are grateful that we're here to continue to serve the community. In early March, when this tsunami started to come down on us, this whole COVID pandemic, I immediately deployed 13 laptops set up for remote services. We were eligible to provide telehealth. I purchased HIPAA compliant Zoom meeting sessions available. And so right from day one, we did not stop serving clients. Unfortunately, we did lose a few clients, but I want to give you some idea of this year. Even though we have lower admissions than last year, what we have is significantly higher issues related to homelessness and at risk of homelessness, as well as massive substance abuse. It's real hard not to have substance abuse going on when one of the only essential businesses that was allowed to be open in this state were liquor stores. So I don't have to tell you that no matter what the addiction or even substance issue was of our clients or the community, people started drinking more, and that was just a fact. Opiate overdoses have skyrocketed, and Essex County has been and remained either first or second in the state. We are a provider that can provide medication-assisted treatment, psychiatric treatment, and counseling treatment. We're licensed outpatient substance abuse. Because of the needs of our community, we actually brought on a second psychiatrist in July of 2020 to deal with the onslaught of the clients that we were getting referred. So we've had since January 156 eligible Montclair clients who are all extremely low or low income, and 17 are adolescents. 23 are on some kind of medication-assisted treatment, which means Suboxone or Vivitrol or some other medication, possibly in addition to psychiatric medication. Over 65% of our clients are co-occurring, which means they're struggling with both concurrent substance abuse and mental health issue. So what this project does is it affords us the opportunity to really provide a greater depth of intensive services and outreach to people who are really struggling. We've done Zoom with clients who are in their car. We have 11 clients who have arrived in the last I'd say 2 or 3 months, who are outright homeless. And we work with a lot who are very at risk. 63% of our admissions over this time have reported either a loss in income completely or a significant reduction in income. And we are working also with the Head Start program to help the parents with the trauma that they're experiencing at not having a means of income, or if they do get a job, then they really need to deal with childcare. So it's like dominoes. So this has been, also there's been a 70% increase in admission of just all clients where they're identifying depression as one of the main things that are bringing them in. So I'd like just to ask you if you could consider funding us. We've been funded and we've worked with the CDBG program for many years. This year, we're actually requesting less than we usually request. We're requesting $30,000, and that's really just to help to provide that oversight for 110 new clients, to work with them, to provide case management, counseling, even psychiatric services. If there is no other means of payment, clearly we're going to look for other means of payment if we can find it. Some of the payers will not cover some of the levels of services. And as I said before, we've needed to actually bring another psychiatrist in to provide some part-time services for us. I don't know, I want to open it for questions. I'm trying to be mindful of the time.
I appreciate that. Council members, do you have any questions for Ms. Seidenfeld?
I see Councilwoman Price Abrams. Before that, just a technical piece. Did you say your request was for 30,000?
Yes, please.
Okay. And Janice, you see that on the form that we have, correct? We've got a different number listed,
I think we made a mistake, and I think we put 40,000, which is what we had asked for in the past. But when we actually pulled the budget and looked at what we could do, we were able to bring it down because we also recognize and respect that there's a number of other programs that are looking for funds also.
Right, there was two different numbers in the application, so.
I sent you an email, Janice, kind of explaining it. So
just want to make sure we're all working from the same numbers, though. But thank you, appreciate that. And now I'll go to Councilwoman Price Abrams. Councilwoman.
Yes, good evening, and thank you so much, Ms. Seidenfeld, for really the extraordinary work you're doing in the community. Just to understand from the quick description we were provided, the funds you're requesting would pay all of the salary of the case manager, and that you're saying represents 22% of the overall cost. So I'm just curious what your other sources of funding are.
We have I have some Montclair Foundation funding to cover some things, but it also covers other stuff. We also have, whenever possible, what we will do is if someone comes in and they have nothing, we will try to see if they're eligible for either Medicaid or one of the state fee-for-service programs, which we are approved for. And those include drug court, parole, MAP parole. It also is another program called the New Jersey Substance Initiative, which some people may be eligible for. There's different reasons why eligibility may not be there, but usually with some work with the clients and with some ability to get the documentation we need, we can try and move them onto a payer source. Mm-hmm. We're also supported by Essex County for some services, which clearly also helps. That's the reason why we can come in at a rate like this and say we just need this little bit of extra help, because of the intensity of need of the individuals that we're serving now. The need is just tremendous. Thank you. Sure.
I'm looking around. Any other questions from my colleagues? Okay. On behalf of us, I certainly want to thank you for the great work that you are doing. and continue to do so. Thank you so much. And of course, we're hopeful that we're able to help in any ways that we can. You're a great organization, and of course, so many others who are coming before us tonight. But thank you again. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for your time and enjoy your evening.
Have a good one.
So next will be Chris Murphy from Family Promise of Essex County. Hold on, let me make him a panelist. You may not be, this is a new name for what was formerly called IHN, or Interfaith Hospitality Network. So Mr. Murphy, you're now a panelist. You should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate being here. My name is Chris Murphy. I'm the board president for Family Promise of Essex County. And like Janice was just saying, we just to make 2020 even more interesting, I guess, we went through a name change this past year. So we were previously called Interfaith Hospitality Network for the Homeless of Essex County. And we've been part of our parent organization called Family Promise National, and we just made this year official for our name change. But I can tell you a little bit about our program. Our mission statement is to help homeless and at-risk families achieve self-sufficiency by providing shelter, social services, and housing assistance through a community-based approach. And we're coming here tonight to talk to you again. We've been recipients of CDBG funding for a number of years as well, and we would be grateful to receive that funding again. Just talk a little bit about our program. We take care of families that are experiencing homelessness, families that have lost their home, parents and children that come to us in crisis who really need a safe place to sleep and a safe place to be. They need compassion. And we're able to take advantage of our network of volunteers that are spread out in churches and synagogues throughout Montclair and Essex County to help these families really get stable and get back on their feet. Our home office, our main office and family center is at 46 Park Street in Montclair. And it's there that our case management team works with the families to set milestones with them, connect them to resources they need to get back on their feet. That's whether that's job referral services, housing assistance, budgeting workshops, all sort of being the goal being to get them back into permanent housing as safely and stably as soon as possible. We divide our program up into three main pieces, really. We like to think of it as a holistic based approach. We have the emergency shelter, we have a prevention and stabilization program, and a youth and family program. The emergency shelter and prevention and stabilization programs both have large case management components to them, which is what we're asking for the funding help from you today. The way that works out is in the shelter program, Family Promise provides temporary housing through this network of 36 faith-based organizations. The congregations can host up to 3 to 4 families, usually about 14 people for a week at a time. They arrange for sleeping arrangements. The congregation provides meals, activities, supervision for children. And then the families are transported by our van, our Family Promise van and van driver, to and from the congregations, and then back and forth from our day center, where they meet with our support staff to help them sort of get a plan together on how to get back on their feet. The prevention and stabilization program takes in families that are part of our shelter program and non-shelter clients as well. And the goal of that program is really to prevent families from becoming homeless. So we provide rental assistance and case management for those families for up to a year. And each of those families work with one of the case managers in the office to come up with a plan on how to stabilize themselves, get them into a good job and onto like a more stable future. Our youth and family program is just like the third component for that holistic approach I was talking about before. We use volunteers from Montclair High School, Montclair State University, and a couple other universities around, in addition to a group of our volunteers that provide counseling services and tutoring for children that are in the shelter program and in the prevention and stabilization programs. So we are asking for really just a repeat of what we've been doing in previous years. We're asking for $37,500 this year, and all of that goes to the case management expenses that we have.
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions for Mr. Murphy?
Get my colleagues. Anyone have any questions? Councilman Yacobelis?
Thanks, Chris. Nice to meet you. Just a quick question. Where is the day center located?
It's in the office on Park Street, 46 Park Street.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking around. Any other questions from my colleagues? Chris, I had one for you then. How would you gauge, and how do you gauge the success you guys have been able to have when you're looking to help people transition and become more stable? Do you often find it's successful most of the time, much of the time, when you put the resources in and help connect and come up with a plan, as you note, and all those other pieces? Is it still remain a great challenge? Kind of where does it fall in terms of the success you're able to see as you do your work?
Yeah, I wish I had our recidivism rate with me. I don't have that now, but it's good. I think the reason we sort of talk about this holistic approach to it is that the more components that we can provide for the families where you're really taking care of the whole family unit, the more success we've had. So, the after school program is an important piece, not just for the children, but to give the parents a little bit of a break and to have the comfort and, knowing that their kids are being taken care of while they can then focus all of their energy on looking for a job and looking for an apartment. So, we've had a lot of success, and one way I guess we measure that is how we get people out of the program. So we don't want people to spend much more than 6 to 8 weeks in the emergency shelter program. We push hard to get them back into housing, and then we stay with them, officially for a year after they get into housing. But we've got clients that sort of consider us family. We become we like to think that we're the extended family that the network that they didn't have before. So people constantly come back to Christmas parties and holiday parties and Thanksgiving drives. So we try to stay in touch.
Thank you. All right, Crystal, again, on behalf of all my colleagues, I want to say thank you for the work that you do and you guys do, and the supports that you provide in helping those families. So thank you. Appreciate that. And again, we're happy to do what we can to help support your work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next presenter will be Elaine Spears from MNDC. Unfortunately, Elaine, I'm unmuting you. I'm unable to make you a panelist for some reason, but I've unmuted you, so you should be able to speak and we'll be able to hear you, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to see you because I can't make you a panelist.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'll begin then. I'd just like to thank the mayor and the council for allowing us the opportunity to apply once again for the CDBG grant. As you may or may not know, Albert Pelham is our executive director there, and I am the director of program services. I'd just like to take a quick moment to just share with you a little of MNDC's history before getting into our actual programming. This is MND's 50th year, 50 year in serving the low to moderate income families here in our community. Our catchment area is Montclair, Bloomfield, and Belleville. It's important to note that since the pandemic, we have had to modify many of our programs, as a lot of other folks have also had to do. MNDC has a lot of different programs, and we serve a really large age group. I'll start with our senior services. The Do Drop In is a day program where seniors gather and have current events. We have guest speakers, and they speak on topics around relevant things such as health insurance, nutrition, and that sort of thing. With our partners, the seniors also participate in the Montclair Public Library Mills program, where they have done art, they have dance classes, exercise classes, and that sort of thing. To move on, we have a number of adolescent programs. One is the CD1 program, which is a 10-week entrepreneur program. We've had to modify that because it had been classroom instruction. Now we have done Zoom instruction, and this is an employment readiness program for 15 to 18-year-olds. If in fact they successfully complete that program, they have the opportunity to apply to our summer employment program. The summer employment program is funded by the township, and the township has been funding us for several years. Then we have the Project Oasis Summer Employment Program. Summer Employment Program is also moved into Belleville, which is our catchment area. We have been instrumental in moving into Bloomfield and mirroring pretty much the same program that we have here in Montclair. Our CDI2 program is designated for 18 to 24-year-olds and is also an employment readiness program. We partner with ShopRite, and what happens is that we provide 4 weeks of classroom instruction. They are then sent to ShopRite, where they are employed, or an internship, if you will. If they're successful, ShopRite will then bring them on as full-time, part-time employees. And this is great because it affords them the opportunity to, at some point, to become full-time, where they then have the ability to have insurance, pensions, and that sort of thing. Our Project Oasis Winter Program is a tutorial homework program. It's run by certified teachers. We do financial literacy, helping our clients to develop household budgets. We teach them about banking, not just for themselves, but for their children as well. And also we take a look at their credit and how to improve the ratings. Last year was the first year that we had a KIP program. The KIP is a charter school in Newark. And once the youngsters graduate from the KIP program, the KIP charter school follows them in college, and they provide internships. We're fortunate enough, this is the first year that they've ever done it, first year we've done it, and we were able to place them in jobs. It's also an employment readiness program. Place them in jobs based upon their interest in their course of study. They were placed in places such as Essex County Legal Services, BID, Dr. Davis, the Montclair Democratic Party, Brendan Gill, our freeholder's office. And at the end of that program, we pair them up with individuals who have experience in their areas of interest. For example, a student may be interested in communications. We would pair them up with Otis Livingston from CBS. Those that may be interested in the medical field, we pair them up at Mountainside Hospital with some of the doctors, the nurses, that sort of thing. It's important to note that this year, because of COVID-19, we have hosted many COVID-19 testing at our site at the Wally Choice Community Center. We've also hosted many food giveaway. We did Thanksgiving baskets for the community, about 100 distribution we did. This Saturday, we're having our toy giveaway from 12 to 2. And recently, MNDC has instituted a community remote learning program. As you know, our youngsters are working at home and with the virtual program, and it's really difficult for the parents and for the youngsters. Some youngsters don't even turn on their cameras because they're concerned about an embarrassment of what their homes look like. Parents have to go to work, and oftentimes they leave the youngsters there home alone. So to address those issues, MNDC has instituted a program at our park house where they come in. We can service approximately 50 students, 10 students per pod, and that will continue until the youngsters are back to school. We're real excited about that program because, you know, parents unfortunately are placed in a position where they just have to work. They just have to work. Today, what we're requesting is the expansion of our Project Oasis Culinary Arts Learning Institute, which is a 6-week program, and it's for 15 to 18-year-old. This program operates during the summer months, and the practicum portion is done by a certified chef. Also, we have a business instructor who is experienced in business planning. They're taught the importance of kitchen safety, cooking techniques, the preparation of nutritional meals, and additionally, they have to prepare a business plan so that they're able to do a startup business of their own. And usually they cater to our community partners by hosting and cooking, that sort of thing. And at the conclusion of that program, whatever earnings they have, it's divided among the youngsters. We have had, usually we have 5 to 6 youngsters. We're requesting an expansion to 10. The program will look a little different this year because we had been doing it once a week. We may have to break it down to twice a year and break it down from 5 to 5 on each one of those nights. Also, it's important to note that we have case management. Our social workers do an assessment of everyone that's participating in any of these programs, because outside of just the programs, the participants have other needs that need to be addressed. So in closing, I would just say that we are requesting funding to expand the program with the modifications. And MNDC, for the most part, we're in the trenches in our community. We're the first line in responders for social work. So we are hoping that you will award us the grant so that we can continue all the programs that we do. And again, I'd like to thank the council and thank the mayor for the opportunity. And if there are any questions, I will take questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from my colleagues?
Just a very quick one, if I can. For the summer culinary program, is that number that we have in front of us 255 youth? Is that the number of kids who are in the program in the summer?
That's overall our total adolescent program, all of our youth service programs. That's inclusive of every program which I just cited.
Okay.
It's not just the culinary program. The culinary program is usually no more a maximum of 10 youngsters.
Thank you.
Any other questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none. Also want to thank you and certainly also want to commend my colleagues. We're certainly aware of many of those programs you noted. We're providing funding for the education pod, as you noted. A big thank you to Councilman Cummings and all of my peers who were able to support those efforts and that work. And we appreciate the work that you do. We've had a long-standing relationship in our community, and thank you for that continued effort. So on behalf of everyone, I want to say thank you and of course, happy holidays.
Thank you, and same to you, sir.
Okay, our next presenter will be Joy Kay. from Montclair Shared Housing Association. They did present last year, but they did not get funding because of various issues with their application. Just the way it was designed. I think that this is this year's application structured so it might be it's probably eligible for funding. Joy, I made you a panelist.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Town Council. Tonight, I'd like to present a project for Montclair Shared Housing Association, and that is the Outdoor Activity Space Project. For those of you who don't know about us, the Montclair Inn is owned and operated by Montclair Shared Housing Association, and we're a residential community of active and independent seniors who are all over the age of 5. We're located at 27 Hillside Avenue, which is right behind Hillside's boarding house.
You know what?
That means that we only provide.
One second, Joy. Are you guys all hearing her cut
Okay.
out, or is it just me? Everybody correct? Yep. Okay. So Joy, if you try it again, if we see you cutting out again, I believe my IT guy would say this is correct. It might be actually better if you stop your video. Sometimes it's less bandwidth and we can hear you. But if not, let's try it again. Start over. Just because you were cutting out of some key points, I think in terms of because I already see the video it's cutting. So yeah, if you could start over, that would be great. Let's hopefully it works with less bandwidth here. So please, thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll start over. The Montclair Inn is owned and operated by Montclair Shared Housing Association, and we're a 22-room residential community of active and independent seniors who are over the age of 55. We are located at 27 Hillside Avenue, and we're considered a Class B boarding house, which means that we only provide meals and laundry for our residents. We don't have any other on-site financial or personal services. We do have 24-hour staff coverage 7 days a week, which is required by the state. And we are also inspected by the county and the state as well. We provide meals 7 days a week, and we have 3 chefs on staff. And so our residents are well taken care of. Now, I'm coming to you to request $8,000 to create an outdoor activity space. Right now, our residents enjoy the exterior of the house as much as they enjoy the interior, particularly because of COVID-19 quarantine restrictions. It's great to have them stay close to home, and they've made use of both the front and the back porch. The patio area in the back provides more privacy from the street, and it's adjacent to our side yard, which is pretty large. However, we have a lot of broken cement and broken walkways, so it's difficult for our residents to navigate, although they do like to sit in the back area. What we'd like to do is have that existing patio repaved to be user-friendly for seniors who are using rollators or walkers. We'll install pavers to provide a patio that's more functional and visually appealing, and that won't require as much maintenance. There'll also be slip-resistant paving, stone walking path that's wide enough for wheelchairs. We do have one resident who does use a wheelchair, and we just would like to be able to have our residents really enjoy that back area without having any accidents. And it needs to be ADA compliant, and so that's why I'm coming before you tonight so that we can redo this video.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Any questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none. Joy, I want to say first, it was great to see you, even for a second there. Right? It was great to see you. It worked a lot better, by the way. You weren't cutting out at all, so thank you for that.
Good. Okay.
And certainly knowing what you guys do there, I greatly appreciate all your efforts and everything you have going on. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming before us tonight.
Thank you.
We're happy to kind of try and help in any way we can. Thanks so much, Joy.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Joy. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank
So
you.
our next presenter is a new applicant. It's the Neighborhood Council, Inc. And we have Marvin Dunn here from the Neighborhood Council. I believe, Marvin, I just made you a presenter so you can unmute yourself and discuss your project. Yeah, I just unmuted you. There you go.
You did? Okay. Thank you. I also, Janice, I also asked you if you could bring on board our treasurer, Victor Demings. It was in my chat, and he is on board, but I don't see him.
I just made him a presenter as well. So
you did? Okay.
Remember,
So
you have 5 minutes, so
okay. All
go
right.
ahead.
All right. Okay. My name is Marvin Dunn. I serve as a member of the council, which has been around for over 70 years.
75 years, Marvin.
Oh, 75 years.
Can you hear me? Marvin,
Yes.
let me speak and then...
And I'm going to let Mr. Demings speak for us, okay? Thank you, Victor.
Mayor and council members, it's great being able to speak to you. Again, we're the neighborhood council, the best kept secret here in Montclair. Over 75 years. We have provided a lot of services. The Boy Scouts would meet in our establishment, as well as other neighborhood organizations. We had some very strong individuals working with us over the years. People like the Mason sisters from Upper Montclair with Iris Gardens. And you may have known Mr. Dasser, who was the engineer. He was very instrumental in helping us to bridge 3 buildings so that the neighborhood council had a purpose. We basically provide a lot of the area for the neighborhood infant and child care center. We're asking for a new roof. We're looking for air conditioning, the units, fencing, and exterior painting, last done maybe 25 years ago.
Mr. Deming, I believe your total request is $90,000, correct?
Yes,
no,
ma'am.
It's been revised, and it's $86,000 if you look on the application. There should have been a letter sent to you. It's $86,000.
Okay. If there was a typo in my memo, so.
Okay, yeah, $86,000.
Yes. 182.96. See, again, we're asking for these monies because it will go a long way for us to provide the services. Let's remember that the neighborhood child care and infant care was approved by the state so that we have first responders. They were, as a result of coronavirus, they were first responders, and Ms. Beek, who is, again, the key person in this whole, as far as the child care center is concerned, she was constantly on the phone with Trenton. And so we had to make sure that the services that we provided to them was first class. Okay, Marvin, did you want to move? Go ahead.
I think you said enough. I think because we don't want to stay within. We want to stay within the 5 minutes. But the neighborhood center, neighborhood child care center, has been designated as an emergency child care center when the pandemic started about in March. So it never closed. It houses right now attendance about 70, of which 58 are from Montclair, of which 25 are school-age children that attend our facility right now. So it's important. Health and safety is number one. And that's why those items that was mentioned by Victor Demings that need to be addressed and be repaired so we can continue offering good service, health, and safety to the children that are in our facility.
Thank you.
With that, thank you so much, gentlemen. Any of my council colleagues would like to ask any questions?
Hey, Mayor, I don't have a question, but I do want to indicate that the Neighborhood Child Care Center was a location that was looked at, and the work that they did to help in terms of how the MNDC set up their program. They've had, I believe, 25 school district students since March. They have not closed, and they really have not had, and they've had any issues in terms of students or any of their staff coming up with any illnesses. So I will say that, Mr. Deming, he knows how I feel about him, but and when I actually visited, they were the only place that I've went to where you had to put on shoe coverings. So, they're very serious about the cleanliness, and the building has been there forever. I think that I wanted to make sure that I at least acknowledge those efforts from them.
Thank you.
Comment, weren't you a student of the center?
So let's leave that alone.
This is Brian. I will tell you, I was a neighborhood center kid, so that tells everybody how long it's been around.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other comments, questions? I don't see any of my colleagues, so I will say, gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate all you are doing. And of course, we will try and do what we can to support those efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on my list is Sister to Sister. Can you hear me? Am I muted?
Well,
we can hear you.
Hear me? Okay. I'm never sure.
No, so
Okay,
we'll see what happens.
We have Sister to Sister.
Hold on, Janice. I think it's muted. Some others is what you needed to do. It sounds like there's a couple others that are not muted.
Okay.
Some little credit.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And Howard's not here yet.
Oh, hold on, Janice. We're still not there. I think
I'm
we can
trying to get out of this.
Do you want me to mute people? I think everybody is muted. Okay. So next is Sister to Sister, and we have Evelyn Gay, who is here representing Sister to Sister. Evelyn, I just made you a panelist, so if you unmute yourself, you should be able to present your project. There you go.
Good evening, Ms. Talley. I'm also here with Dr. Marcia Hurd, if she could be unmuted.
I don't see her name on the list of attendees, so I'm not able to unmute her.
Okay,
so yeah, no.
Maybe she hasn't been able to join.
What's her name?
Dr. Marcia Hurd.
No. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I see her now. Okay. There you go.
She'll be filling in any blanks that I leave open. So good evening, Your Honor and members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evelyn Gay, and I am board president of the Sister to Sister of Montclair Mentoring Group. We began as a program of the Montclair North Essex YWCA in 1998 under the direction of Adele Clark Katz, our founder and former executive director. Since 1998, Sister to Sister has served more than 700 girls and young women at the high school, middle school, and elementary Montclair school levels. To understand the value of sister to sister, consider how Montclair prides itself on its social and economic diversity. As such, it is therefore a magnet for those parents who have little but want to offer their children the opportunity to achieve much. Half of our mentees qualify for free or reduced rate lunch, and the majority come from families where they will be the first to attend college. So while our students are welcome and embraced in Montclair schools, they also often find themselves amidst a world that is miles apart from their personal reality. Sister to Sister gives them a place to talk about how these discrepancies affect them. We provide them with counseling, tutoring, mentoring, and cultural exposure that they might otherwise not be able to afford. Our efforts culminate in the fact that 100% of our girls graduate from Montclair High School, and 98% go on to be the first in their family to attend college. With assistance from this grant, Sister to Sister looks forward to continuing a college advocacy and technology literacy initiative. This is a hands-on program which introduces our mentees to the world of technology while encouraging them to see themselves as successful participants in that world. I'm sure that many of you already know about Sister to Sister, so I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. I'd also like to state that even though we have not been able to meet in person during this time of COVID, we were still able to sponsor an app development program for our mentees, 8th graders through the high school. They were presented with a certificate of expertise at the end of the course. Marcia, would you like to add anything, or should we leave it open to questions?
I think it's important to restate the fact that Sister to Sister has 100% of the girls that it serves graduate from high school, and 98% of those young ladies attend college, often as the first in their family. Additionally, Sister to Sister helps young ladies to make that transition from grammar school to middle school to high school. And in doing so, these young ladies are able to get on the right track towards college. It isn't a second thought, something that they think of in their junior or senior year. It's something that is encouraged from the elementary level forward. And the last thing I'd like to say is that the one thing that's really beautiful about Sister to Sister is the fact that Sister to Sister encourages the high school students to reach back and help the middle school students and so on. And so there is an ongoing relationship between the younger girls and the older girls. So not only are they mentored, but they are also mentors to one another. If I may, one other thing. I think this STEM technology program that Sister to Sister is attempting to inaugurate is a major step towards helping these young ladies to be able to see and really be able to understand the possibilities for them in careers in technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Mayor, if I may, I just have a quick question, either for Marcia or Evelyn. I see just in the numbers we have in front of us, a total of 137 beneficiaries projected. How many students would you say are in your program in any given year?
That is the number that was our actual enrollment before COVID. Of course, during this pandemic, we've lost students, and it is primarily the high school students that we're able to reach. It's been harder to work with the elementary and middle school students. However, they are all eager to get back on board once we are able to use our classroom facilities and meet with them in person. Their teachers are actually paid by the Board of Education, because it is the board that asked us to start our program down in the elementary grades. So that 137 number again is what our our roster was like just before COVID.
Thank you. Any other questions from council?
Yes, if I may, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say that I know this organization intimately for many, many years. I know Adele Katz's legacy. I'm so happy that it lives on through the work of Evelyn Gay, who I also know a very long time, and and Marcia Hurd. This is an incredible organization. I've seen firsthand the difference it's made in many girls' lives at Montclair High School. I've seen many times Saturday mornings the group going on trips to New York City and going on college tours. And it's an incredible organization, and it's done the very limited budget and a lot of volunteers and a lot of heart. So thank you, Evelyn and Marcia.
Thank you,
You're
Rob.
very welcome.
And thank you for all your support over the years.
Indeed, thank you.
Yep.
Any other council questions? All right, seeing none, also want to say thank you very much. Thank you for what you guys are doing. As a councilwoman noted, the great work that you're doing. So we appreciate that, and we wish you a happy holidays as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to you. Stay well.
You also.
Our next presenter is Cynthia Walker from SOFIA. And Cynthia, there you are. Let me make you a panelist. Cynthia, if you unmute yourself. There, I unmuted you. You should be able to speak and talk a little bit about your program. Cynthia?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share our information with you tonight. Welcome to the new Town Council members. We're looking forward to working with you as well. And I just want to talk a little bit about SOFIA. SOFIA was created in 2009. In June of 2008, Monica Paul was murdered at the YMCA on Glenridge Ave. And I met her mother, and she shared with me that there weren't enough resources for domestic violence victims and also survivors. So SOFIA was created in 2009 as a domestic violence awareness, prevention, and educational organization. We also help direct clients that are coming out of the safe houses. And once they're placed in their apartments, they can contact SOFIA, and we will help them with their necessities. A bed, a refrigerator, pots and pans, a lot of things that we take for granted. Silverware, towels, washcloths, and we will provide up to $1,000 to help them once they start out fresh with their new apartments. We also provide the Sort of Success program that the township and the federal government has been funding for us, where we offer a variety of motivational and financial empowerment workshops that helps assist with the self-esteem and to help our clients become self-sufficient and successful. That Sort of Success program, we were able to provide 8 workshops this year, beginning of the year. We usually start in January and they run through to May. And I'm proud to say that we did serve we served 113 clients. Those numbers have increased because people are feeling more comfortable with the Zoom presentation. So we're proud to say, they can come on, they can still remain anonymous, but they can also gain the information from these workshops. Overall, this year total, we have served about 519 individuals through our outreach workshops. We talk to adults about how to support someone they suspect is in an abusive relationship. We talk to young adults about healthy versus unhealthy relationships. We talk to them about the warning signs of an abusive person, and we offer them resources to get help if they're in an abusive relationship. We also have a support group for those who have experienced domestic violence. We have a We Care program that we developed since COVID-19 in March, where we deliver COVID-19 related necessities to our clients. Hand sanitizers, paper towels, toilet paper, clothing detergent, masks, disposable. These are delivered to our clients on a monthly basis. We also have a program where the clients can pick up necessities as far as toiletries, deodorant, sanitary pads, toothpaste, toothbrush, clothes, boots. We customize to the need of each client. So they put their request in and we will supply them with what they need. We also are building a team of domestic violence response team members that can also help with our local police department to understand the language that should be had with a client or someone who is considering getting a restraining order with their domestic violence case. We have our direct support, which I mentioned, the We Care program support group. And I think that's it. We did supply our clients with Thanksgiving baskets. And also we are having our toy distribution this coming Saturday. We are located at 11 Pine Street. And if any of you would like to volunteer, we're going to be transporting the toys from the fire department to 11 Pine Street. And then we'll be packing up the bags for each individual family. So if any of you are free, you're welcome to come this Saturday, 11 Pine Street from 10 to 1. We'll be glad to have you. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Russo, and then I think Councilman Russo, and I think I saw Councilwoman Abrams. So Councilman Russo, please.
So Cynthia, last year I was very concerned that your funding was cut and you asked for quite a bit this year, but I hope my colleagues will help restore something, because I know now during this COVID, and tell me if I'm right, there's so much more risk of domestic violence with stress, family stress, relationship stress. You experience an increase because of this whole pandemic.
Yes, there is an increase with domestic violence. The victims are in quarantine with the abusers, seeing that we're all working from home, although the phone lines are very quiet. So that's why we're focused on our clients that we already have and the clients in the safe houses to customize their needs. But unfortunately, we had a few conference calls in all the domestic violence organizations, and the phone lines are very quiet. So if we could kind of keep all of these domestic violence victims that are suffering in silence in prayer, that they're able to reach out once the abusers go back to work, it would be very helpful. And what we're doing is we're just getting ready. So when these abusers go back to work, we will be able to handle the caseloads that are going to come in. But yes.
I just want to say, everybody knows you do that great walk every year at Canterbury Park. So
thank you.
We'll continue. I hope to continue to support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We're proud to say that we did have over 100 people at Canterbury this year. Even with COVID-19, we were able to social distance and bring a lot of awareness and prevention to the community. Thank you so much for supporting us for all these years. We are grateful and we are looking to continue to do our great work. Any questions?
Thank you. I did. I want to appreciate the work that you do. And as my colleague, Councilor Russo just noted, I'm sure it doesn't cover everything you need to do, but the nearly $60,000 request, I wanted to know if we were able to give you less than that, could it be, in other words, sometimes you need the whole nut to be able to do the job. Could you make a big difference or some difference with a lesser amount? I just wondered how that's going to cut for you.
Absolutely. We received 7,800 last year, and I believe, I don't know, the county had 9,000 in the back office of Neighborly, and we still haven't received a list on how much we're actually going to be granted. So the budget will be customized. We will do as many workshops as we can, and we are totally grateful for whatever we receive. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Also want to, on behalf of all of my colleagues, thank you so much for the work that you do. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it, appreciate you, and certainly wish you a
Thank
happy
you.
holidays as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you. Janice, before we go to the next piece, just for certainly the benefit of our colleagues who are kind of going through this for the first time too. Do you want to just go through the funding piece and how that works in relation to the councilwoman's last question, to note how the funding occurs from the county side after we're done ranking all these pieces?
Right.
Please.
Well, right. Certainly the requests always exceed significantly the amount that we're allocated. So what happens is you, the council, prioritize the service agency projects. At the end of the day, you will be adopting a resolution that prioritizes these projects, and that resolution gets delivered to the county with the shortly after we give them the applications. What the county does is they then review the applications. Some of them may qualify, some may not qualify. They're reviewing these applications for consistency with HUD regulations, and may find things that we do not identify as potential problems. So not every project will get funded, and the amount that these projects get funded really depend upon the nature of the project and the history of the applicant working with the county. They may be aware of issues that we're not aware of, which may affect the amount that they are allocated. So once the county reviews everything, they'll come back with a recommended allocation. I'll bring that back to the other council rep and the Economic Development Committee to discuss. If they feel comfortable with the allocation, then we'll tell the county that that's acceptable, and they'll move forward to put it into their action plan and make a request to HUD to create these projects. Basically, nobody gets the amount that they're asking for. In terms of, we have two more projects.
Janice, appreciate the short summary at the end there. That was the, I think, key piece I just wanted to relay, that it's always under, unfortunately, what everyone asks, only that there are limited dollars. But go ahead. Thank you.
There's two more applications. Strategic Mentoring sent me an email that due to family emergencies, nobody is available to make their presentation this evening. But you do have the information that they submitted. They have submitted in the past. So I think if you read the description, you'll be familiar with what that project is. So the final applicant is Succeed Together. And we have, I believe, two representatives here from Succeed Together, Jackie Moraz and Marcia Marley, and I will make you presenters, or panelists. So if you unmute yourselves, you should be able to discuss your project, Jackie and Marcia.
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, counselors. First, thank you for your continued support that has made such a difference to Succeed Together and the families we serve. With the onset of the pandemic last March, our mission of helping to close the achievement or opportunity gap for underserved communities has been much more difficult and more urgent at the same time. On the positive side, Succeed Together was able to very quickly pivot to offering all of our programs online, including our entire summer workshops, serving approximately 60 children, and offering everything from 3D printing and STEM classes to philosophy, violin, algebra, elementary classes in language art and math, and the list goes on and on. Our success continued this fall with the growth of S2G's signature one-on-one tutoring program, an increase of students, particularly within this format. We are now up to 100 students in that program alone, despite most people's Zoom fatigue. And given the intensive staff monitoring that requires, the staff is very tired, and it is a significant achievement that they're doing this every week to support all these weekly tutoring Zoom classes. Pertinent to the CDBG application, the pandemic has also caused us to reassess and reorientate our instruction to meet the critical needs facing the community during the post-COVID period, as well as while the pandemic is raging. We are revamping our programs to increase the intensity of focus on those children that are especially at risk of falling permanently behind, not just temporarily, but permanently behind. That includes, on our part, increased tutoring sessions per child, expert training and ongoing support for our tutors, emotional support and guidance for at-risk families. This is a new program. Ongoing college and secondary counseling for all our students, another new and expanding program. And finally, ramping up our early childhood reading intervention program, revamping both the online platforms and eventual in-person instruction, hopefully by next fall. These critical additions and refocus of existing programs represent the ask for this grant, which is $20,000. Succeed Together has worked creatively to overcome inherent difficulties of remote learning while expanding the benefits, and our efforts have paid off. Our success is measured in numerous recent stories, and I won't give them all to you, I just picked a couple. A senior that S2G helped with college prep skills just got accepted into 3 colleges. 2 brothers that struggled with reading comprehension and writing before joining our program. One was recently named the Student of the Month at his middle school, and the other is now getting a B or better in every subject. A 12th grader who is currently applying to college insisted when he arrived a year ago that he could not write and probably would not apply to any college. With the support of our college essay writing, he produced a sparkling piece of writing, and he is also being tutored by S2G 3 days a week in an honors AP physics course and calculus course. That's what I mean by intensive instruction that is making a difference. To meet our needs, we continue to partner with many organizations, some that presented today. And this year, we have reached out to MSU graduate students during this pandemic. Jackie will tell you more about this special partnership. Jackie?
With, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Montclair State University and its speech pathology, language pathology program. We have 12 speech language pathology graduate students who are working with our younger children who have learning issues such as problems with reading, and they're getting an additional hour of tutoring each week, and we're really seeing it make a big difference. The other thing these graduate students are doing is they're offering training sessions to our tutors on helping engage students with learning, especially avoiding Zoom fatigue. So we're planning on continuing that throughout the year. It's been very successful. Do you want me to add anything else? The other thing that we are doing is we are supplying hotspots to our families who don't have the internet access through Verizon, and we are supplying them with computers through Laptop Upcycle. Marcia, do you want to add anything else?
No, we have many other partners we're working with on different programs to supply our families with wraparound services from pre-K through when they enter college.
Mayor, I have a question, if I may.
Great, sure. With that, I was just going to open it up. So, Councilman Jacobells.
Thank you. Hi, Marcia. How are you?
I am fine.
How many beneficiaries are there in a typical year?
Okay, this is not exactly a typical year because of the pandemic, but otherwise we were doing 300 beneficiaries to our programs. Those are year-round, meaning they take the summer program and then on the one-on-one tutoring and our workshops and etc. In addition to that, we have like one-off programs. We have events for our literacy events for our Montclair Literary Festival, which is run by Succeed Together. And we have over 2,000 to 2,500 people go through that. And many of those programs are free.
Thank you.
Any questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing no one looking to raise their hand. I want to thank both of you so much for everything that you're doing. Certainly helping our kids in so many ways and doing all that you can to be supportive. So we will do all we can to support your efforts. We want to thank you, and of course we wish you happy holidays.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Good to see you guys.
Okay, so that's it for the presentations for this evening. I have, am I unmuted? Yes. I have the tally sheets or the score sheets, which I attached to my memo. I understand some of you may not have received it. So what I'll do is I'll send it out, just the score sheet this evening. If you can fill out the score sheet and sign it, put your name on it so I know who's responding, and then send it back to me by Friday, I'll be able to compile the numbers and put together a resolution for the next council meeting. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, yes. One.
Hold on. Councilman Russo, 1 second, please. I saw Councilwoman Price Abrams who had raised her hand on that. So Councilwoman Price Abrams, and then I'll go to Councilman Russo. Yes?
Thank you. So Janice, thank you. So just to restate, we are simply ranking them in an order of priority, but not to do with how much of their request we would wish to.
Right. You have
it does.
Yep. Yes, you'll get 20. You have 20 points. Each council member has 20 points, and you allocate it as you wish among the various applications.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, Janice, just to clarify that again, and this is partly for Lori. It's not that we're so much ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a priority. The county actually does the ranking, I think. But if a group doesn't get many points, it winds up at the lowest end. And what happened last year, or the year before, I think, was that SOFIA, which always got a pretty substantial grant, got almost nothing. So they got the lowest at domestic violence. So I just happened to, realize that if I gave all my points to one, it might put them over the top. So I just wanted to let you know. I'm not going to do that this time, but I feel it's a strange system, and we don't get enough money from the federal government. Hopefully, with the new administration, we might get more CDBG money. There's not much that comes in now. Used to be double years ago. So ranking is not so much what we're doing, but we're allocating points. So if you really think one group like Succeed Together or SOFIA, needs to be given a higher score, then you give them more points. But you can't go above 20, right, Janice? It's a 20 limit.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I have another question, if I may.
Council.
You identified, of course, the two capital projects that sit at the top before the service agency projects. But I thought you said we're required to do 85% in capital. I notice it's not really. I guess that's assuming it's not 320. Is that what you're?
No, 85% is what the entire Essex County Consortium has to meet, that 85%. Montclair does not meet the 85% because we have more service agencies than many of the other municipalities that participate in the program. So we don't ever meet that 85%. We're probably more around 55 or 60%, depending upon what the agency applications are.
Thank you. So I guess the other question is, and I understand the Economic Development Committee, endorsed those two recommendations. I'm just wondering with regard, I would like to see more dollars go toward the social agency projects to the extent that we could. So I'm just wondering about the Hartley Street Road improvements, and there really isn't another source of funding that we would typically cover that type of activity with, or I don't know what's typical.
Typically, the township's projects go towards capital improvements. We do have to use our funds for capital projects. We've used them in the past for sewer infrastructure improvements, road infrastructure improvements, accessibility improvements at sidewalks and within municipal buildings. So I think it's a balance.
I just have one quick question. So kind of picking up what Lori was saying, some of these groups talked about the money being spent on capital projects, patios and your roof. Should we be giving more weight to those? Or it really doesn't matter?
I think you can, it's a personal choice. If you think remember the purpose of the program is to benefit low-income families. If you feel that that's a higher benefit than some of the other programs, then you can give it more points. So I think that this is a very fair way to evaluate what you think, what the township and you as the council members think is really important.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I didn't see anybody looking to raise their hands there, Janice. So thank you so much for that, Janice. Thank you for all of the people who came on and the great work that they're doing and for the presentations. And certainly we will get that back to you. I think, Janice, once you have those sheets out, I heard Friday, so we'll make sure you've got that. I'm sure everybody will by Friday. And we'll get that off to the county for them to allocate those dollars. So thank you very much again. And Janice, thanks for jumping on with us tonight.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Good evening. Okay. With that, I am going to switch us over to our public comment portion of the meeting. In an effort to minimize COVID-19 and maintain social distancing, this meeting of the Town Council and further meetings until this pandemic is over will be available to the public remotely. Those who wish to participate now during public comment should dial in to 408-418-9388. When asked to enter an access code, please enter 179-074-3889 and then press pound. When asked to enter an attendee number, please simply press pound. When asked to state your name, and then press pound. The administrator will say when it's your turn to speak, and you will hear 2 beeps. At that time, the caller will have an opportunity to make his or her comments. And Mr. Stafford, I will turn it over to you to facilitate the public comment. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Caller with the number starting 646-592. It is your time to comment. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes. Caller with the number starting 646-592.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Hi. I was calling in regards to the tenant organization. Has that started?
This is public comment, ma'am. You can choose to comment on anything you'd like. I only ask that you state your name for the record and keep your comments below now 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks. Sorry, my son was having a crying meltdown just when you called me in. Thank you so much. My name is Joanna. I have lived in town since I was 8 years old, and although I'm a homeowner, my parents were a homeowner, my immediate next door neighbor and friend who I, walk to and from high school with, she lived in a 2-family rental. I've had many friends. I've seen, other moms get divorced, need rentals, and affordable housing is such a critical issue in order to create the socioeconomic diversity that we need in this town. And it's something that we really need to protect as something that's really sacred that our town is doing proactively, especially in the time when the home sales are going up so exponentially. I just want to call to give my support for making sure that our town continues to support rent control policies that make the town affordable for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Caller with the number starting 646-701. 646-701. It is now your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Carson Hall. Can you hear me?
We certainly can, sir.
Great, thank you. Hi. Yeah, I'm Carson Hall, and we moved to Montclair last year in September, my wife and my daughter and me, and we bought our first house here on Burnside Street in April of this year. So we love it here, and we're grateful for the hospitality everyone in town has shown us. Good timing, the Montclair local just ran a story you may have seen this week about the flooding problems that Burnside Street has had for years. The story explained the fact that the reason the street floods so badly is not from natural causes, just from rain or drainage, but that it's an engineering problem having to do with the damaged drainage system and the water level of Edgemont Pond, which was raised several years ago. I'm not sure why a decision was made to raise it. I'm still catching up on my Montclair history here. But anyway, the Montclair local article made clear that my neighbors here on Burnside Street, who, many of them lived here for decades, they've been pleading with the town for years for help, and there's been a lot of dialogue and solutions offered years ago that haven't materialized. So, according to the article, the Department of Community Services refused to respond to requests for comments. So I just wanted to ask the town council question, just whether the town council could commit to getting a response from the Department of Community Services, from Steve Wood, with a commitment to the residents of our block about what the township's next steps.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Hall, are you there? I think we lost Mr. Hall.
Mr. Stafford, I think you got the gist of his question that he was going there. So could you address that point, please?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I can briefly. The matter has been analyzed as of recent by the township engineer and by the township's consulting engineer, both of whom share the professional opinion that it would be unwise to take any action at this time, any action, including even conducting a study. And that is because any action has the potential of affecting contaminants in the area that are being studied by the township's licensed site remediation professional. And that would likely impact negatively the existing groundwater condition. This is something that Councilor Schlager, I know, has been working on for quite some time. She's been shall I say, neck deep. I remember, and I certainly defer to the gentle lady, we met with residents of Burnside Street on, I believe, the Monday before Thanksgiving last year, where they put forth their privately retained engineer who offered possible solutions. And our engineers and our consulting engineers who are engaged in the contaminant analysis have both since unequivocally said that taking any action whatsoever would likely impact negatively the existing groundwater condition, and that would be unwise, if not significantly negative. I would have no problem if it is Councilor Schlager's desire to endeavor to schedule a virtual meeting for the folks with both the township engineer and the consulting engineer so that they can hear the professional opinions from these professionals rather than hear it from me. I think that that's fair, but I think it's necessary because the consulting engineers and the township engineers' opinions and recommendations are strident and unequivocal.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. And I think for purposes of the public comment here, we wanted to make sure we got that information there. But I know Councilwoman Schlager is always in contact with all of her constituents and engaging around this issue. So I know she is, as you noted, deep in this and making sure she's in the know, and she can work through. Councilwoman, of course, defer to you there as whatever, Mr. Stafford, as you offered, needs to be set up or whatever conversations need to occur. Councilwoman, full confidence, you're going to work whatever you feel is appropriate there. So thank you, though, Mr. Stafford, for that explanation. And thank you.
Good. Thank you also, Mr. Stafford and Mayor. I will be following up with Mr. Stafford to, if the residents so desire, to have that virtual meeting and to further explore what the engineers have come up with. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
Caller with the number starting 201-874. 201-874. It is now your turn to comment. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Louisa Hackett, and I'm a member of the tenants organization in Montclair, and I'm on their homeowners committee. And I have a question about the signatures that were submitted by the landlords to get the question about rent control on the ballot. There was an article in the Montclair Local on December 9th that stated 136 cured and new signatures were resubmitted. And my question is about the new signatures. The article stated 53 new signatures were submitted along with the 83 that were cured or fixed. So the original signatures were submitted on September 23rd. Can new signatures be submitted 2.5 months later? Is that allowed?
Thank you for your question. And I will certainly turn it over to our township attorney. And while you answer that, Mr. Karasik, you might want to offer an opine on the ones that they have most recently submitted as well, in terms of what they've submitted as an example of some of the types. Go ahead.
Okay. When a petition is, all of the timelines which are normally taken, and all the timelines specified in the statutes which authorize these types of petitions and referendum elections, have been distorted and extended by the court, so that the normal timeframes, which would normally be, you could submit 20 days after, up to 20 days, a petition up to 20 days after the ordinance was passed, was extended to 5 months approximately. And the time to cure a petition, which is what you've asked about, which ordinarily you would only have 10 days to do, I believe there's about 40, so far 44 days have gone by. Signatures, the clerk has evaluated, or I should say really examined, it's the correct word, the signatures that were recently submitted in order to cure the first petition, which was deficient by, I believe, 106. if I'm not mistaken, was deficient by 106 signatures. And what was submitted essentially, both the first time and the second time, was a jumble of petitions that were submitted online, some of which, at least I believe 20, didn't even have a name on them, and they used the word test. Others had the first name, second name, no name. During the first round, at least I believe 12 to 20, somewhere in that range of petitions, actually had curse words and statements, complaining about the process, et cetera, but they weren't actually petitions. So it appears very clear that whoever submitted these petitions didn't look at them before they submitted them. That said, as I say, ordinarily there would be a 10-day time frame for submitting petitions to cure a deficient earlier petition, but that's been extended. The clerk, after reviewing and examining the current submission, rejected the petition, found it insufficient, and no further action. We plan to take no further action on it. However, there is ongoing litigation, so I anticipate that the court's going to be involved in this matter.
Thank you for that overview, Mr. Krasik. I think you hit all the pieces. And just for a last point, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe part of the curing process, you are allowed to get new individuals to sign normally for a curing process. Is that correct, Mr. Krasik?
Yes, that is correct.
Just wanted to add, I know that was a direct part of the questions. So,
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you for the overview. I think you did a good job of explaining all of that and adding a little bit of the context as to what types of things are being submitted in terms of blank forms and everything else. So thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, sir. Caller with the number starting 973-477. It is your turn to comment. 973-477. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
I'll try. This is Ed Remsen. How are you all?
Doing well, Mayor.
Thank you.
I wanted to comment on what I'm calling the rent stabilization ordinance, which I now support, and which the previous council adopted, and I believe this council supports. I've become active with several of my friends in town to do some coaching for the tenants organization and to do some volunteer work with the Housing Commission to help them think through some new innovative affordable housing strategies that we will probably present to your council over the next several months. We believe that the affordability issue in Montclair, something we've talked about for several years, is now becoming very, very acute and requires some bigger solutions. If things don't change, we'll have no affordability for longtime residents, senior students, and our kids. And that will have severe consequences for the racial diversity of Montclair, the unique magnet school program we all sent our kids to, et cetera. I will say that for many of my now 33 years in Montclair, I had reservations about this kind of ordinance. Partly, I had seen the downside of rent regulation in New York City, and I felt at the time that Montclair had not really exhausted all of its options. But over the years, we did. We were a beneficiary of regional contribution agreements, which gave us more dollars for affordable housing initiatives. But our council eventually decided to stop taking these dollars since they allowed far too many towns around the state to avoid the responsibility we were all supposed to share under the Mount Laurel Agreement. Past councils used a good chunk of the community development block grant dollars, something you're discussing tonight, to do things like giving Home Corp a chunk of money to acquire an apartment building on Glen Ridge Avenue that now provides permanent housing. And past councils and the present one also make sure that developers provide a percentage of new units as affordable without taking the public subsidy so the units could be marketed to local residents first. I understand the reservations people have about rent regulation, but I do not think it will be the sky is falling impact that some say it has. It will slow down the rate on increases in some dwelling units, and while it is not a perfect ordinance, it's a good start, and I think it's fair to all parties, including the landlords. I do not think this issue should go to ballot at this time, and I realize you don't have total control over that decision. Frankly, everybody's sick of elections for a while, and I feel that there will be a lot of hyperbole and confusion and a very, very small turnout, and that's never a good thing. I think one of two things should happen. Withdraw the petition for the referendum, but shorten the time period for us to see what the impact will be. If memory serves, the ordinance calls for a review of the ordinance after 10 years. I think if we shorten that to 2 or 3, we can get a much better idea of what the impact's going to be. Certainly have the opportunity to see what's happened in 100+ municipalities around the state and many in Essex County. I also think that we need to get everybody in the room. And I've had conversations with some of you about this. We got to get people in the room to negotiate a better ordinance. A referendum is just going to drag out and be expensive, and I think it is the wrong way to go. And those are my comments. Good speaking to you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nasty bell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the number starting 201-424. 201-424. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
This is Ron Simoncini from the Montclair Property Owners Association. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the Trump administration tax policies. I know that everybody here remembers that the administration deprived us of our state and local tax deductions, and how autocratic we thought that was, and how self-dealing we thought it was, how political we thought it was, and how disenfranchising it was to not have a dialogue that allowed everybody to understand what tax policy should be and why, and that balanced the interests of all the people who were involved. That's what you guys are relative to rent control. I can't imagine any elected body being more tone deaf, and I agree with the Mayor Remsen, who just talked about the fact that people should be in the room. No one's ever been in the room on this. And so as I look at this circumstance and I think about what's happened in the review of the petition signatures, if this body were so confident that Montclair wants and needs rent control, it should want it to go to the ballot. You should want your law reaffirmed. But instead, you're sticking everybody's nose in a highly politicized review of an ordinance, a review of a petition that clearly the voters have expressed their interest. We've had now over 1,700 signatures provided. And to address one thing that somebody said before, the attorney Karasik said before about the petitions, this is the first time anybody's collected signatures. Montclair is the first place anybody's collected online signatures. So in order for us to have a complete record, we had to give you every single thing anyone submitted, or else if you came back to review the electronic records, you would see gaps in the records. We couldn't afford for you to do that. We didn't know how that would be viewed. So unfortunately, we did have to submit things that we didn't want to submit, but we knew they were there. Of course, we reviewed the whole thing. And I think, Mr. Karasik, it's a little disingenuous to even suggest that we didn't review the signatures when we've exhaustively categorized signatures for you on 2 separate occasions, and including this occasion where we made the argument that the clerk had no right to reject the petition signatures as a result of non-matching signatures, because the signatures could never match anyway. And so all we're going to end up doing is going to court again, and you guys are 0 for whatever it is in court. You've won nothing. And if you win this, do you really win? If you win this and you deny the people the right to vote on rent control, did you really win something? You know what you won? You won being Donald Trump.
Can I answer that? Can I answer that?
I would say this, although I'm not the township attorney in this matter, it is exceptionally hard for a client sometimes to not speak, even though the natural inclination is to correct factually inaccurate statements. I defer to the gentleman from the law department, but I believe it would be unwise to comment given the pendency of litigation. Mr. Karasik?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think that given the fact that there's ongoing litigation, I'm not going to comment, and I don't believe any of you should. You are the party in interest here as the governing body of the town. That said, I mean, it's very hard to restrain myself, but I am doing it, and I think we should move on.
All right, I'm just not Donald Trump. I'd like to say I'm not Donald Trump, and neither are my colleagues.
I will say, and I know Councilman Russo was itching to make a comment, and those were all along the lines. I would say, I think it is. It is. I will just have to smile at somebody trying to spin the fact that us trying to implement rent control to stop uncontrollable rent hikes equates us to the Donald Trump side versus those trying to be allowed to raise them to whatever rates they want. So if that's the pretzel twisting that is attempted, so be it. But I'll let my council colleague Russo's comments stand. I'll let people judge it as they will.
You
thank
said
you.
what I wanted to say, Mayor. Thank you.
Moving, unless there's itching, I don't see any. Moving along, Mr. Stafford.
Caller with the number starting 973-886. 973-886. It is your turn to comment. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
One is as a member of the homeowners committee of TOOM. I'd just like to add my voice to others that have spoken in support of continued efforts to implement the rent control ordinance, and to thank the council for rejecting the settlement proposal that was offered. I was happy to read about that. The second thing I'd like to speak on is to follow up on my neighbor Carson Hall, who was cut off. I'm a resident of Burnside Street, and Mr. Stafford, you've pointed out that we also have a groundwater contamination problem. So really nice quality of life we have here, flooding and groundwater contamination. In my mind, that suggests that the issues related to our block need to be elevated, not pushed off further into the future. The groundwater contamination issue with Gannett Fleming has been going on for years and years. And as far as we can tell, it will continue to go on for years, and there is no end in sight to that. And we have never been given any explanation for what is happening with that, what kind of remediation is happening, what's the timeline, when can we expect something with that issue to be come to some kind of conclusion. So if you want to bring that into the issue of the flooding, okay, we will take that issue on with council as well. But as far as I can tell, the things that our block has discussed with the township in the past have nothing to do with the groundwater. The town was going to do, if I can remember well, and I don't have my notes in front of me, some kind of survey of Tony's Brook, which I don't see how that has any interference with the groundwater or the plume. There are other actions the township can take right away that would help us, which include dealing with the backflow valve, dealing with the height of the retaining wall. These have would have no effect on the plume. And as far as I'm concerned, connecting these two issues is the township's way of telling us maybe in 15, 20, 30 years we'll get to your problem, and that's not acceptable. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 201-921. 201-921. It is your turn to speak. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Excellent. Good evening, Mayor and Council and the public. My name is Ahava Felici Dodd. I'm that president, the one who works for the Tenants Organization of Montclair Advocacy Group. I'd like my 5 minutes. I hope you're all doing well. I'm grateful to be on the call for another session with you to speak in support of rent control in Montclair. But first, I'd like to show my support for all the programs who spoke, as they are all essential, and I'm familiar with every one of them. And also the neighborhood center. My mother worked there as well, and I know that place is kept clean and very caring. She also worked for the Y on Glenridge Avenue after the time of Home Corps being established. She was one of the core founders of Home Corps, and my late mother's name was Mrs. Mary Ann Claremont, and she instilled the importance of service to others in me. I was given the freedom to do so as early as the age of 7 by she and my late father, Mr. Gerard Claremont, who was an immigrant in this country with full citizenship and fully a Montclarian. When I was 13 years old, I was doing coat check with another young lady from Montclair as a service to a former mayor, and also invested many nights in tutoring, feeding, and caring for the children of Montclarians who were going to council meetings and board meetings to make change. Positive change in our beautiful, sought after, well known across all continents and countries, township of Montclair. I've had many interesting experiences on my life journey, including living in an unexpectedly unsafe place while I was an undergrad. So my neighbors and I had to take our rent and place it in an escrow account to address some internal issue that the owner of the property refused to address. After 5 months of not getting our rent, the issue was taken care of. At the age of 21, that was a hard place to be in, but if we didn't stand up for ourselves, no one else would. I was reminded of this at the April 11, 2019 Forum on Rent Control that was here in Montclair. Everyone on the panel was not a renter. Many were homeowners telling us to stand up for ourselves. So why didn't this happen before rent control implementation? So people ask, well, why didn't it happen before, meaning years ago? There are a lot of answers to that question. Many of us on the journey are those pieces of the puzzle who weren't yet ready. So we're the people with the feeling hearts, creative and intelligent minds, carrying on for those like us whose journeys did not lead to the completion of a rent control ordinance for Montclair. When you are the group who comes to stand in the gap and fill in the blanks and bring things to fruition, it's an honor. Montclair needs rent control. We have an approved rent control ordinance since April 7 of 2020, and the 8 months delay on our implementation should be considered unlawful. I also want to make it clear for any new listeners that I am a native, born and raised in Montclair. And during our 1 year's time of organizing publicly, our, meaning the Tenants Organization of Montclair Advocacy Group, the only landlords or property owners who participated were those who were and are still supporters. They are what some of us will call our foundation bricks. Lisa already covered asking about the update on the petition, which is great because we never know what number we're at on the call. And, we want to see our approved rent control ordinance implemented. We want to see that implemented. I'd like to thank Ira for your candor in answering Louise's question. You rock. Thank you, everyone, for your support of our rent control ordinance. And lastly, for those listening, please feel free to become more engaged and informed by watching and listening to previously recorded public comments on the Montclair Township Council's YouTube page, TV34. Looking forward to our rent control implementation as so many of our renters and homeowners are here in town. Thank you so much and have a good night and happy holidays.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973-820. It is your turn to comment. 973-820. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, it's Tony Martin with the Tenants. Hi, it's Tony Martin with the Tenants Organization and the Montclair Citizens for Rent Control Coalition. I have been aghast at the name calling and sort of inverted patriotism exhibited by Mr. Simon Sini, who is the public relations executive who was hired by the Montclair Property Owners Association to fight rent control. Since the moment he entered the scene, in addition, Attorney Charles Gormally has engaged in what I consider denigration and demonizing of our council members who bear about as much resemblance to Trump as, I don't know, Joe Biden. Anyway, to get to the point, it has been difficult to see around this inflated rhetoric and invective, an attack on everybody's character, to see what the property owners group is really after. But what has emerged, I think, in the reporting in the Montclair Local and in conversations landlords have had in calling some of us, you know, and trying to make their case, over the last couple of weeks, it's pretty clear what they really want. They really want only one thing, which they describe as a tweak to the extremely, well, you can't be extremely moderate, but the moderate rent control ordinance that was passed in April. They would describe it as a tweak. We would describe what they seek as a gutting of the ordinance. The MPOA wants what is termed vacancy decontrol as part of the ordinance. This means that whenever a tenant moves out of a building and a landlord chooses to improve it or not, or substantially rehab it, whatever they choose, they may raise the rent, whatever they choose, because the rent control ordinance is decontrolled for that unit just because someone has moved out of it. That's the way that buildings turn over, large buildings, from affordable to the average person to affordable only to a few. I've spoken with a small landlord or two who talk about this being important when, you know, people leave voluntarily and then they can use a substantial increase in rent for those units that turn over. I'm sorry, just a couple more seconds. In order to accomplish a rehab of a building. This small landlord effort can work under the existing rent control ordinance, and it can certainly be worked out with a rent control board when it is put in place. It is the kind of case that would result in negotiations in good faith. Everyone wants us to have stable housing. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 862926. It is your turn to comment. 862926, please. For the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
My name is Edward Robin. I am speaking in behalf of the Montclair Library Friends. And my purpose of my comment is to support full funding of the Montclair Public Library. By that I mean funding at the pre-pandemic level. If the at present the library in the funding level that was provided in 2020, if that level prevails in the transitional funding for 2021, then the adult school classes will no longer will cease. There will not be there will not be evening or weekend hours for the main library. Those hours are weekend and evening and weekend hours are needed for people who have jobs during the day and require library services. And the Bellevue Avenue Library will remain closed. So additional funding is needed to prevent those things from happening. The library provides services to low-income persons who do not have internet service and who need help applying for jobs. The library also, at the present time, the main library reference desk and reference services and the children's library are closed to the public, and additional funding is needed in order to make those services available to patrons. So I urge the council to support full funding of the Montclair Public Library.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. As a note, the dollars that we have put to the library, we've had specific conversations to make sure, and I think the exact wordings were, tell us exactly how many dollars you need to make sure that you are functional and can provide the services. And we made sure that we provided those dollars. And I know it is our intention, as has been the previous council, to support the library to the greatest possible extent that we can. I know Councilman Herlach has always been an advocate for our second branch and would never let it and see that shut down. So I know that's the case for sure. So we've all been strong supporters and will continue to be. But thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could add on to that, if you don't mind, actually, having been the longest serving member of the Finance Committee now for the last 8+ years, and the conversations that were recently had with the library board and with the administration, as well as with our administration, with you, Mr. Mayor, and also with Mr. Cummings, who's on the Finance Committee, we've received a lot of emails, text messages, telephone calls, and unfortunately, there were some articles that may have appeared locally. Nothing can be further from the truth. I hope I said that slow enough so everyone understands what I just said. We have asked what the ask was, and we have met the ask. And I'm not sure where this started from, although we're going to find out eventually. But absolutely, Mr. Mayor, the Bellevue Avenue branch will not be closing. We were not making these massive cuts that I've read about, quite the opposite. In fact, our financial advisor was on the call with all parties from the library and the town and asked, what do you need to make sure that everything stays open and that make sure that, that everything runs just as it's supposed to? After several questions, several times that specific question was posed, we got a number and we agreed to meet it. So to your point, Mr. Mayor, I'm not really sure where this is coming from. Nothing can be further from the truth. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman.
Yeah, just want to reiterate what Councilor and Deputy Mayor Herlock said, because I used to represent the First Ward. This issue always came up about having two locations, but we have a tremendous historical library there, Carnegie funded library with historical features, and it's a great service to people. People from all over town go there and they go down to the main library. And I've always been a supporter since the time I was mayor and I appointed most of the library board members. It was a great honor to be sitting on the library board. So I'm going to make sure I support as far as we can, but I just want folks to know we're in a tough period that we all have to try our best to find savings and do what we can to live within our means. The problem has been Washington not giving us funding for our municipal government. And so I'd ask everybody who's directing criticism or questions at us, please help us get funding from Washington for our municipal government. They gave us some money from the CARES Act. Hopefully this HEROES Act, if we find that we have a new Senate in a couple of weeks, we might be able to get some money for the HEROES Act, and the president could sign that, and we could start to get some resources into our town to make up for what we've lost through the pandemic. So please let's get our attention and our focus on Washington, which is where the problem is for all libraries all over the country need help. There should be a library funding component of anything that the Congress passes. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure that Mr. Russo and everyone knows that the library was funded to what we could do for them. And the press reports were completely wrong. And that it's not about Washington. We gave them the funding that they requested and that we identified to support all programs and employees to fit the rest of the year. And at no time did we make it seem like we would not fund them. So I want to make sure that we remain on the track that Deputy Mayor Herlock mentioned. Okay. And now I'm sorry for the noise in my background. My daughter just got into Spelman College and she's yelling and screaming in my ears. All right, I'm working. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Best wishes.
just made my day.
Wonderful news.
Congratulations.
That makes my day, goes into my wallet, but I want to really make it clear that, and to the residents that I've responded to about the library, that we are committed to it, and it's really unfair how we have been portrayed based on the calls that we've had.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I just wanted to just put that in there because there was some clarification, I think, if you will, needed there. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations to your daughter, Councilor Cummings. That's a wonderful thing, especially to happen at this time of the year.
I think I see as Councilman Cummings is leaning over, I think he's literally going into his wallet right now to start pulling out some dollars. I see him leaning over there, but a big congratulations. Big congratulations. Go ahead, Tim.
With the number starting 347504. It is your turn to comment. 347504. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes. Caller with the number starting 347504.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So my name is Louise Nevin. I have lived in town for about 25 years. I just listened to your comments about the library because that's what I was calling about. I am concerned that it's now, and I think part of it is not just the reporting, but also the library is closed on weekends, which limits services. And I think that the library itself is going to be critically important to our recovery. I hear you also about reaching out to Washington about funding, but and I'm happy to hear that you provided funding and you want to for what they have, because I'm a lifelong library user. The fact that it's closed on weekends, it makes it very difficult for me, though I'm very lucky to work from home and in town. It's still very difficult. But the open book, open mind, the adult school, and all the other things that happen there are vital to our community. And I'm just happy to hear that you are continuing to support it, and hopefully we'll be able to fully fund it so that when we get out of this pandemic period, we can come back together as a community there. And that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973-919. It is your turn to comment. 973-919. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is James Powell. I was a 15-year resident of Montclair, and I currently work in Montclair. I was also involved, calling about the rent control ordinance. I was also involved in updating Newark's rent control ordinance several years ago, as well as intimately involved in the ballot initiative that Newark undertook to strengthen the rent control ordinance. So I applaud your continuing to defend your own law. Some of the attacks seem ridiculous. Earlier this evening, just the level of hyperbole and calling you Trump, I mean, that sort of tells you sort of the level of dialogue that you can expect, and I appreciate you ignoring it as appropriate. To the point that no one was in the room or that hadn't heard, I know that almost all of you spoke out in favor of the ordinance before the municipal elections. We have a representative form of government here where the council does the people's work, and we can't have a ballot initiative for every single thing that happens and comes across the board in Montclair. And I think the ordinance was an appropriate way to legislate. I agreed with one of the other speakers that having vacancy decontrol clause is a bad idea. It only incentivizes bad landlords. You know, the service starts to go down and because they're incentivized to get people out quicker so they can raise the rent every year instead of less often. So just finishing, just again, thank you for your, keeping to defend your own ordinance. It's a good ordinance. And if there are any changes, do what we did in Newark, let it run for a few years, and it can be amended as you see fit as it goes by. But I think it's time to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, there are no more callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stafford. So with that, I will close public comment. Next, we do have a proclamation. I know this is, just a longtime resident that unfortunately has passed. I know that she was involved in and engaged in so many things in our community. I know that she really developed a great relationship with so many of our employees in town as well, and a connection there. So certainly going to be missed. But with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Deputy Mayor, would you do me the honors of reading the proclamation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be honored. And as you noted, unfortunately, Juliana had passed away recently, and this is a proclamation in memorandum of Juliana Belcsak. Whereas the Council of the Township of Montclair notes with sadness the passing of longtime Montclair resident Juliana Belcsak, noted community leader and volunteer. And whereas during her time in Montclair, Juliana served this community with dedication and distinction, particularly in her work with overseas neighbors in the Montclair Rotary Club. And whereas a native of Graz, Austria, Juliana moved with her family from New York City to Montclair in 1971 and brought the skill, dedication, and intelligence she utilized in her professional life as publisher with her husband, Hans, of an international investment newsletter to work with not only overseas neighbors in the Rotary Club, but also the Feliciano School of Business at Montclair State University. Her knowledge and interest in the international scene informed her efforts in these organizations, stressing the importance of shared experiences between individuals from different countries, particularly through student and business exchanges, in promoting understanding of cultural differences and development of business and educational opportunities. And whereas, with her indomitable spirit and belief that any goal could be reached through cooperation and innovative thinking, Juliana inspired and sometimes good-naturedly hectored those around her. I know she did. For sure, I was part of that. Those around her, making the initially thought impossible become not only possible, but also remarkable. Juliana never asked more of others than she was herself willing to do, as evidenced by her welcoming into her home of a young girl from Kosovo who had lost her legs in the conflict there. This young woman lived with the Belcsak family, graduated from Montclair High School, and went on to earn a degree from a New Jersey college. And whereas with the Montclair Verona Rotary Club, Juliana established an award presented annually for public safety employees as exemplars of service above self. And in addition to the sister city relationship between Graz and Montclair, Juliana continued to foster Montclair's relationships with other cities around the world, resulting in people-to-people exchanges, donations of food and medicine, and the development of business relationships. And whereas throughout her many years of residence, Juliana earned the respect and affection of township leaders and members of civic, church, and charitable organizations. She demonstrated in many generous and practical ways her deep and genuine love for our community. In recognition of Juliana's dedication to Montclair's overseas neighbor initiatives, the Township Council, by resolution January 22nd, 2019, renamed Graz Park on Bluefield Avenue as Belcsak Graz Park, a lasting tribute to someone who will remain a part of all who she has met. Now, therefore, the mayor and the council of the Township of Montclair hereby express the thanks of a grateful community for the life and the contributions of Juliana Belcsak, and extend our sympathy to her daughter, Claudia, family, and many close friends. We mourn with you and celebrate this extraordinary life. And Mr. Mayor, I'm honored to so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And certainly, I think that really captures and well read there. Appreciate that. Just a wonderful person. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Moving next, we have our agenda items and the agenda with flexibility because, and we know why, as we are towards the end of the year here, and we have a number of items that needed to be added after our conference meeting. Mr. Stafford, I'm going to ask you to go to resolution R-2221 and to give a quick overview. I think many of these are pretty self-explanatory, but give a quick overview of those to the end, and then without objection or duly noting any to be held out, I'm going to add those to the consent agenda. So, Mr. Stafford, can you please start at R-2021? 221?
Sure. I believe that's item 33, correct?
Correct.
So item 33 is a grant insertion, and its resolution would serve as the township's request to the State of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, Director of the Division of Local Government Services, to approve the insertion of this grant in the referenced amount as an item of revenue in the township's 2020 budget and as an appropriation in the same amount. This grant does not have a local match. The Health and Human Services Department recently received a letter of intent to award a 2020-2021 New Jersey Department of Health Strengthening Local Public Health Capacity Program Operations Grant in the amount of $142,236. Again, thankfully, this grant does not have a local match requirement, and it will be used to support our health department's activities to combat the circumstances caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, including offsetting costs incurred in supporting vaccination clinics and engaging in vulnerable population outreach. Item 34, there are appropriated funds in our parking utilities operating account, capital account, and a reserve account of the 2020 budget that are in excess or not committed. State statute permits the cancellation of these unexpended balances by governing body resolution. Item 34 is a resolution that, at our Chief Financial Officer's recommendation, would authorize the cancellations and return of the listed funds to our parking utilities operating fund balance. Item 35 and item 36 are similar. 35, similarly, there are appropriated funds in the water utilities operating account and capital outlay account of the 2020 budget that are in excess or not committed. The same statute permits the same type of cancellation. And similarly, our Chief Financial Officer recommends authorizing by this resolution those cancellations and return of the listed funds to the water utilities operating fund balance. Item 36 is similar. There are appropriated funds in our township's current fund, both operating and capital accounts of the 2020 budget that are in excess or not committed. State statute permits the cancellation of these unexpended balances, again by resolution. And 36, item 36 is the resolution that would authorize those cancellations, again at the recommendation of our Chief Financial Officer, and return the listed funds to the township's current operating fund balance. These are somewhat extraordinary, but made necessary by the circumstances caused by the pandemic, as well as by our hiring freeze and other austerity measures taken over the last 7 to 9 months to ensure the successful operations of the municipality and the effective direction of public services those strategic moves put in place well before the pandemic, certainly not forecasting the pandemic, but put in place by our governing body as a whole through the leadership of our finance committee, put us in a well-positioned place to successfully negotiate thus far the pandemic, and these moves will further bolster our position financially for the 2021 budget. Item 37, the firm of Eric M. Bernstein and Associates is currently representing the township in multiple real estate tax appeals and New Jersey tax court matters. Given the volume of this work and the additional billable hours required to continue to provide these critical services to the township, recommendation is made to, and the resolution in item 37 would increase the not to exceed amount by an additional $8,000 for the current contract period. Item 38 is similar. The firm of DeFrancesco, Bateman, Coley, Yasmin, Kunzman, Davis, Lehrer, and Flaum is currently representing the township in multiple real estate tax appeals and in New Jersey tax court real estate matters. We bifurcate, in essence, the matters that we have outstanding tax appeal-wise and tax court matters to ensure a sufficient redundancy and expediency of handling. Given the volume of this firm's work and the additional billable hours required to continue to provide, again, these critical services to the township, recommendation is made to, and the resolution in item 38 would increase the not to exceed amount by an additional $20,000 for the current contract period. Similarly, the township awarded a contract to the firm of Hendricks Appraisal to provide tax court appraisal services and tax assessment inspection services as required by the township with a not to exceed amount of $67,500. The contract was awarded by resolution pursuant to an appropriate competitive contracting request for proposals process. Given the volume of work and additional billable hours required to continue providing these critical services to the township, recommendation is made to, and the resolution in item 39 would increase the not to exceed amount by an additional $25,000 for the current contract period. It's worth noting with respect to these three items that we do our best to forecast an appropriate not to exceed amount for the applicable period or contract term for these professional services. Unknown at the time, notwithstanding our best efforts, is how many tax appeals will be filed and how many tax court matters the township will have to defend. So hence, we do our best to monitor and ultimately come back to the governing body with a request to upwardly amend the not to exceed amount if necessary. Regarding item 40, state statute permits transfers from budget appropriations with an excess over and above the amount needed to fulfill the township's actual obligation to those appropriations deemed insufficient. Our chief financial officer has recommended the transfer of funds listed on Schedule A, and this resolution would authorize the same. Item 41 is a resolution in support of New Jersey's participation in the Multi-State Transportation and Climate Initiative. And item 42 would be the bills list.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stafford, for that overview. I will just note we're supposed to be receiving the language around 41. I don't think I was able to receive that. Did you guys able to get that out?
I believe it was emailed by the municipal clerk late this afternoon. I would think close to 4:30. Is that correct, Ms. Bermudez-Nieves?
Yes, I sent it at 4:42. I can resend it if you like.
Just so that we're on the same page, Mr. Mayor, I have no such email. And I've not seen whatever language was proposed for 41.
Given the time of that, maybe that's one that we want to put onto the next agenda. Is there to that so everyone has a chance to read it?
Yeah, Mayor, I was going to request that we pull it out anyway from the consent agenda so we could speak about it, but I certainly accede to the idea that we would carry it forward to the next council meeting for everyone to have the opportunity to review it.
Excellent. Without objection, thank you for that. And let's put it to the next one, and then everyone has a chance to review that fully. I see some heads nodding, and then put that on the next agenda. Okay.
Right. With appreciation to the staff, particularly the counsel's office and the clerk who spent time trying to pull it together. It did come to us a little bit late, so I apologize that it wasn't fully disseminated. But anyway, thank you for the consideration.
No, absolutely. Thanks for working on that.
We'll resend it to the governing body as a whole following tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Okay, so without objection, then all of the other items read and number 42 will remain independent. Shall be added to the consent agenda. Hearing no, is there any holdouts or objection? Okay, seeing none. Moving back, I'd like to go to our ordinances. We have a new ordinance here, which is an ordinance 0-20-25, an ordinance regarding uniform construction code permit fees. Madam Clerk, would you please?
I'm sorry, this is an ordinance for introduction. Do you want me to tell you what it's about? This is something that was sent by the township attorney.
Yeah, so this piece for everybody, my colleagues certainly know this too, and others out there. This is some great work that's already been happening. I know from the coronavirus task force work, but also with guidance from the state where they have a waiving of some fees. This has to do with the tent fees as we enter the winter season, and there are entities that are trying to remain open, utilize tents, etc., and where the township can collect a fee around those pieces in support of those efforts, we would be waiving that fee with this ordinance. So with that brief explanation, I so move.
I'm going to second that, Mr. Mayor.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Claire Sabers.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If I may have misheard what you said, I guess we're not actually waiving them, we're just giving the discretion to the manager at a future time to waive them. And magically waiving such fees in the future if there's an emergency, correct? It's that the manager would have the discretion to do so. Is that correct?
That is. Would you like me to speak, Mayor?
Go ahead, please.
That is correct. That is how the ordinance is drafted. But with an eye to the present, the state of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs has issued guidance. However, I'm not sure guidance, although that's how the memorandum was labeled, is the appropriate descriptive word. The guidance strongly recommended that municipalities waive these fees.
Good.
So those are the circumstances caused by the pandemic that resulted in this ordinance being drafted and placed on the agenda after consultation at the finance level.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Our small businesses rather quickly came to us with this one, and we're happy to be able to act quickly. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is also, I think, a part of the long conversation that we've had now for many months. I know you're on the calls, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Karasik, Mr. Scantlebury, with the businesses that we've been having for months since the pandemic hit, as well as Councilor Iacobellis. And this has been an issue that we've been working through, quite frankly, for months. We're trying to work with the businesses to be able to assist in any way we can as a council going forward. So this is a very welcome change. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Just coming from a place of curiosity, I wanted to understand better why it doesn't have a sunset provision, if that's by design or if that's the recommendation from the state. I'm
not sure exactly the question, in that it does state that it's during an emergency. So it would be sunset if there's not a state of emergency, meaning, if you're out of the state of emergency, you're out of the state of emergency. If we were to enter another state of emergency, it would then give the manager the opportunity to do the same exact thing, which presumably would be because you need to do it because we're back in another state of emergency. Is that your question, if I'm understanding it?
Yeah, just generally, making sure we're all conscious of that, right? That this is not something that we're going to have to sort of turn on and off in the event of emergency. It's in perpetuity. That this will be a change in perpetuity.
Well, as any ordinance, it's a change until a new ordinance is adopted. I mean, there's always the ability to change things by ordinance later on. But the purpose of this particular, the way it's structured, is to give the manager the flexibility to be able to act in an emergency, and as the mayor said, an emergency only. In the event, and it only is for the tent fees and the heating source, because tent fees have heating sources, which is a separate permit. So we wanted to make sure we covered both of those areas. If in the future some other type of permit should be waived in order to deal with an emergency, the council can add that by resolution to this ordinance. That's why that last part is in there. The idea is to give flexibility to deal in emergency, but as the mayor said, emergency ends, the waiver provision ends also. It wouldn't, I mean, to put like a 2 or 3 year term on this, at least from my perspective as the attorney, doesn't make any sense, because all of a sudden it disappears on the books, and then just we can always, the council can always act to change it if it wants later.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I guess just the second question I would have would be, other permit fees that might be relevant to waive in a crisis as well. Why wouldn't those be included? And again, it's just coming from a place of curiosity. So something like, when we did the pedlet, what we called, the pedestrian, walkway, essentially we closed the sidewalk and put up concrete barriers, like, fees associated with that. Why wouldn't those powers similarly be granted?
Well, waiver,
I can speak to that. Oh, sorry.
Let me just finish with, every waiver carries consequences and sort of secondary effects. These were the particular permits that we were asked to address. And I guess the manager can speak to what will happen if there's another permit.
Inherent in a state of emergency are emergency powers for either the Office of Emergency Management Coordinator or the Township Manager. In this instance, the guidance, such as it was labeled by the Department of Community Affairs by the state, specifically stated that such waiver of fees had to be done by ordinance. So in an effort to comply with that guidance, we thought it prudent and required, frankly, to codify it in the township code rather than simply using emergency powers of what you were, I believe, referring to, like the sidewalk cafe permit fee waiver. In this instance, the DCA said it has to be done by ordinance. We strongly recommend it, but do it by ordinance. So that's why we did it.
Okay, thank you.
As a note there, Councilman, as Mr. Stafford just has noted, we have been waiving some other fees, right? That's a good example of one. So,
yeah.
Okay, seeing no other questions, concerns, comments, been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk.
Councillor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
Yes.
Councillor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Councillor Russo?
Yes.
Councillor Schlager?
Yes.
Councillor Yacovelis?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next, we have resolutions 1 through 40 on the consent agenda, and I so move. Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Councillor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
Yes.
Councillor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Councillor Russo?
Yes.
Councillor Schlager?
Yes.
Councillor Yacovelis?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next, we have item 42. Councilwoman Schlager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the opposite persons for the amount set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair in the County of Essex that said invoices be, and they are hereby ordered paid, checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and hereinafter stated on the schedule attached hereto and made a part hereof. This bill list is dated December 15th, year of 2020, for the amount of $8,606,118.60. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, or comments?
Just one question.
Let's go with Councilman Russo.
Many times I see manager that lists the word blanket, and I just didn't know what that meant. I've never seen that before.
That's a term of art, sir. If there's going to be a repetitive invoice entered over the course of the year, the Finance Department requests that a department or division enter a blanket purchase order or requisition for what will come for the next X amount of months, like let's say PSE&G bills or utility bills or hardware supplies, and then it is labeled as a blanket entry for payment of the invoice.
Okay. I didn't want to bother you, but I did want to ask about the Hills Pet Nutrition item, which is from Dallas, Texas. It says, are we buying something? It says for the animal shelter. Are we buying something from Dallas, Texas?
I suspect that that's pet food for animals at our animal shelter. I saw the invoice electronically, and I don't recall seeing that it was from Texas, but I'm sure that must be either where the vendor or the shipper is from.
Yeah, it's a P.O. box, but I just thought that was, I mean, we can go local for that. Oh, okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Any other questions, concerns, comments?
I had a couple of questions, Mayor. Okay. Thank you. One of them was the blanket payment to Arterial. Is that, that's David Lustberg's company. Is that for the work at the circle by the water fountain?
Yes, Sam, I believe it is.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then there was, I don't have page numbers. I'm sorry. There's no page numbers on the printout. There's a charge for $5,500 for Grant Street Group. I was wondering what that was. They're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I have the same question. I didn't want to prolong it. I love Pittsburgh, but gee.
Truthfully, I saw the invoice and I actually looked at that one. I can't recall what the invoice was for, but I'll be happy to look at it after the meeting and send it to you.
No problem. Thank you. And also the $52,793 for the whole bunch of initials, Wellmont Midtown Garage. Are we, what is that? Are we?
That's a payment. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ira.
Oh, go ahead. I mean, basically, it's a payment. We had to pay a share of the bond, the bond that secures the building of the Midtown deck. When the developer agreed to build the Midtown deck, parking deck, which they're about to start, actually, they wanted to begin the deck after they had done the other construction. And we were concerned that we wanted them to do it before, but since they wanted to do it after, we wanted to secure it with an $8.5 million bond so that we know our deck would be built, or else we wouldn't have the money to build it. And the bond costs a certain amount, and we agreed to pay a portion of it, I think 25% or something like this. And then I don't have it in front of me, the exact amount. And because it's taken a little longer, it's added a plus one more. But that was our share of the bond.
Good. Thank you both,
Sure.
Manager and Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
I should say one more thing. We're getting about an $11 million deck that's going to be built, turned over to us. We will own it, and we'll get all the revenue from it. So there's value to that $50,000.
Without a doubt. Yes. Thank you. Yep.
Just wanted the residents to know we do actually read this, don't we, Robin?
Yes, I do. Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, Everybody does a great job. The manager's office and our finance department does a great job. Thank you.
And if I can just comment, just to echo that and also just speak to a different tactic, just so constituents know, I have a habit of, and I appreciate Mr. Stafford's consistent and prompt responses to, the inquiries that I ask about the bill list, every other week when we get the packet, we correspond. It's always prompt and provides all the detail. And I'm always amazed by how quickly that can all be summoned. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
I know, I got it.
All right. Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Councilor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Councilor Russo, Councilor Russo,
Yes. Sorry.
Councilor Schlager,
Yes.
Councilor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Okay.
Can I just say, the Grant Street Group invoice, I knew I had seen it, is for professional services rendered for the recently issued general improvement bonds. When we recently went out on a bond call and got at the lowest, as far as I understand from our bond counsel and other professionals, the lowest rate in the history of the state of New Jersey, these folks did the work with respect to the issuance of the bonds. That's the invoice.
Terrific. Very great. Thank you very much, Mr. Stafford. Great.
They consider changing their name, Tim, because it leads to some questions. Like I had the same question when I saw that.
Mr. Stafford, if you could for just a second, I don't think I heard what you said. It was something about the lowest. There was a bond. Could you just say that one more time for me, please? I didn't hear it the first time.
When we had the bond sale, bond sales are now done virtually. They're done online, not because of the pandemic, but because it affords the most efficient and the most effective way to get the best possible rate. And our township employs the best professionals in the state, if not the region, for these types of instances. Mr. Beneke, as you all know, as well as McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman. Mr. McManaman was on the virtual sale. Mr. Jessup, our bond counsel, was on the sale. Mr. Beneke, Ms. Rao, myself. And the time for the sale, I don't want to build a watch here at everyone's expense of their time, but the time for the sale was going so well and bids were coming in so furiously that I believe the time was extended for the sale. It might have been eight or 10 times. Ultimately, the interest rate that the taxpayers will pay, based on many factors, the financial prudence of the governing body, the AAA bond rating of the township resulting from sale, the wonderful labor relations that we have with the long-term bargaining agreements that we've successfully negotiated, et cetera, contributed to what our professionals, and these are knowledgeable women and men, said was the lowest interest rate in the history of such a bond sale.
That's what I thought you said, but I just wanted to make sure I understood, which is a great thing for Montclair. And thank you all. And thank you, Mr. Stafford, for all the work that you all have done on that as well. Sorry to interrupt, but I just had to hear it again.
Not at all. I mean, the lion's share of the credit beyond that which goes to the governing body for its fiscal prudence and stewardship over the last 8 or so years, 8.5 years, goes to Ms. Rao and her team of advising professionals, not the least of which are Mr. Beneke and McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman.
Well said. Hear, hear. Thank you.
I certainly have to say, Mr. Stafford, I like that somehow the second time around it was a little more detailed and a little longer, but I like that because you got into the weeds and all the pieces that, which somehow I think was what the deputy mayor was looking for. I got a feeling. So I think you're onto something there.
You got me, Mr. Mayor.
And certainly I want to commend the work that everybody here is doing Yes, you're right. Absolutely, Mr. Stafford, our staff and everyone else, top notch, our advisors, top notch. And I'll also say it's an important piece on everybody here as electeds. There's a lot of pushes and pulls to kind of deviate from the sound fiscal policy that's allowed us to save dollars and then, quite frankly, reinvest those savings into our community. Paving more streets than we've ever seen, putting more infrastructure work done with sewer lines, water lines, putting more dollars towards funding of early education, library funding, things we've increased over the time year after year. And I think that's because of the smart fiscal policies. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to note that, we had been increasing debt for countless years up until 8 years ago. So finally, we've been moving in the right direction. We, have engaged in good policies that keep it happening, save residents dollars on tax bills, and also, added a lot more in terms of service and support for organizational work. So kudos to electeds on here, my colleagues as well, because I know that takes some discipline and standing up for some challenges that we sometimes face, but it's for the broader good of making sure we have additional dollars to add where we need to. So kudos, and that only works in partnership with a great staff and also great advisors. So thank you to everybody involved in that. Being that you needed that repeated, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I figured I'd add my 2 cents.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so with that, let's go around to the horn. I'll start with Mr. Karasik. Anything to add?
Well, the only thing I have to add is I'd like to thank the council for their continued confidence in me since I was reappointed at this meeting. And I appreciate it, and I hope to give you good service in the future and have a very good holiday for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Madam Clerk.
Nothing from me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, you got it. Mr. Deputy Manager.
I have nothing to add other than to wish everyone a safe and blessed holiday.
Thank you, sir. Next, okay, I think that's Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I'd like to also say best wishes for a healthy, joyous, and safe holiday season and new year. And again, offer my congratulations to Mr. Cummings and his daughter and his family. As the dad of an 18-year-old daughter myself, who's going through the same rite of passage right now, I know how big this is for her, and I know it's a thrill, and I want to say congratulations again.
Mr. Stafford, didn't your daughter just get into her top school as well, if I'm not mistaken?
I recall that too, Mayor.
Oh, really? Where? What?
Today she got into.
It is true. Yesterday, my daughter was accepted into the Ohio State University, and my family's over the moon. I don't think her feet have touched the ground since she got the email. So thank you for mentioning that.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful. Great football team. That's wonderful, Tim.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Congrats. Okay, let's go to Deputy Mayor Herlock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. To Mr. Stafford and Mr. Cummings, I just say as a parent with 2 in college right now, come on in. The water is fine. It's not that expensive, really. Congratulations to both of your families. Seriously, that's great news. A lot going on in town, which again just speaks to the resilience of the people of Montclair. Many of us went Sunday night, and we got to participate. Mr. Mayor, you did a great job. I didn't realize you were that good with a blowtorch, but we had the lighting of the menorah over at Lackawanna Plaza. It was a great event. It was done as a drive-in, so everybody got to participate. There was social distancing, masks. I want to thank Kabad Montclair and particularly Rabbi Yaakov Leaf, who I consider a dear friend, and I thought it was a great event, and I was glad to see most of my council colleagues there as well. Was also honored to address the Rotary Club last week at their luncheon, which again speaks to the resilience of the Montclair business community. It was a great event as well. We did it virtually. and also, of course, the many calls and Zoom meetings that we've all been at. I don't think people realize how much time we all spend doing the service to this town, whether it's a Zoom or WebEx. We've had meetings, as I said, with the business leaders. We've had many meetings regarding New Jersey Transit with transit officials, and that, we're all on subcommittees, finance and public safety. We've all been having those meetings as well. And I just want to wish everyone a happy and a safe holiday season, and a happy and a healthy new year. And here's looking to a better year next year for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next, let's go to Councilwoman Schlager.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I also, as Deputy Mayor Herlock stated, that the menorah lighting in the Hanukkah celebration was wonderful. What a great effort by Rabbi Leaf and his team. It was really terrific. Equally as exciting today was the press conference, which a lot of us attended as well, that for Essex County and the rollout of the COVID vaccine. Joe DiVincenzo and his team have done an amazing job. I'm sure others will talk about it as well as we go on this evening, but it's very exciting that we have a vaccine up and ready for those most in need to receive. I also, with the cold weather approaching and our snowstorm tomorrow, our restaurants are not able to serve food outside anymore. I actually ate on Church Street on Saturday. It was like 50 degrees. It was the last warm day, I think, probably for the year. So I hope that people would consider takeout, curbside pickup from some of our restaurants, order a pizza, whatever you can. I really feel for them. It's going to impact their restaurants quite a bit. So I urge people, if they can, to do that. And happy holidays, happy New Year. Can't say I'm happy to say goodbye to 2020, and best to all of you and all your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Next, let's go to Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thank you, Mayor. We are still celebrating Hanukkah. It's an 8-day holiday, as most of us are familiar with. And so still lighting our candles in our homes, and want to wish a happy holiday to everybody celebrating Hanukkah, and for all the other upcoming holidays, again, sharing in sort of the joy of the season as we're all looking forward again to a fresh year, fresh start in many ways. I actually was at the event at Lackawanna Plaza. I just had stayed in the car, and we were answering those Kahoot questions probably when you were lighting that. So I also wanted to acknowledge, the vaccines coming on. It's really a turning point moment. As Robin was saying, I wasn't able to participate with the county executives program, but through my day job and other, I'm very aware of the whole national effort, paying a lot of attention to that. And so we're really hoping that this becomes the turning point moment that we all need to move into something fresh and new. I want to also acknowledge Ann LaPelle, who has, I think it's 6 or 7 years perhaps, served as the chair of the Senior Citizen Advisory Council. And I've worked with her for a short amount of time, but I know that others have worked with her for quite a long time. And she's very dedicated, very dogged and committed. And it's really always on behalf of what she is trying to help fulfill with the team of people that work together to do the best we can by the senior citizens in our town, and help. One of those aspects of the diversity and the roundness of our town is to be able to keep our senior population well and staying in town as they wish to. So wish her all best as she moves on, and good luck to, of course, her successor in that. That's it for now. Just wishing everyone Happy New Year as well, and look forward to really just marked that we've done this for just about half a year now, and still feeling like, getting the training wheels, but it's a pleasure and an honor to serve with all of you. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman. Next, let's go to Councilman Cummings.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. And Tim, we had this discussion Friday. So we both got good news. Congratulations to you as we discussed. And thanks everybody for the congrats. And Bill, I have 2 in college already too. So trust me, we are swimming in the same water. I want to say that attending the Hanukkah event was a lot of fun. I didn't get a bag, so I didn't get a light. But because I saw a counselor, waving your hands in the air, but you wouldn't dance. But anyway, that was a great event. And I think this weekend, there's going to be a lot going on in town. MNDC, Sister to Sister, Brother to Brother, are all having a toy giveaway Saturday at the Wally Choice Community Center. My new best friends, the Young Black Fathers, are actually going to be having a dinner plate sale fundraiser. Got a couple of professional chefs going to be cooking. Menu will be, it's outstanding. And trust me, I spent some time with them at Restaurant Depot, and it's going to be really good. I think that one of the things I do want to admit that is the vaccine. One of the things that was hammered that people need to be very vigilant, but also know they need to take it. They've made a lot of conversation about the fact that folks are kind of leery, but it's important that if we don't, I think Joe D said we need at least 70% of Essex County residents to take the vaccine in order for it to be effective. So, each county, each town, should be ready. And the other thing was they made it clear Essex County was really leading in preparation. I mean, if you went into that Kmart, if you've been there before and you saw what they did, it's really really great. So a lot of kudos to Joe D and his team in the county. I think what I would also like to say with this storm coming up, people, be prepared. I had a couple of conversations. Want to give a shout out to Union Baptist for opening up a respite for our homeless population, which will definitely be needed during this time. And, finally, I want to give Sue Porteous a lot of kudos for the work that she's done. Seeing her up at the press conference today, got a chance to talk to her, and I just think she deserves a shout out. She's been one of those unsung heroes that I think we all we get the emails, but this is just a good time to acknowledge all of our workers, all of the staff, but Sue and her group and what they've gone through and what they've been doing for this period of time deserves a special shout out from me. But to everyone here, as Lori mentioned, it's been 6 months getting to know one another, working with one another. Wish you all a happy holiday season. But Robin, you said it best. I can't wait to get to 2021. So happy holidays, everybody, and I look forward to continuing our work for the township.
Thank you, Councilman. Let's go to Councilman Russo.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to reiterate that we're moving into a new year, hopefully a much better year, but it's got to be that we do the social distancing, the hand washing, the mask wearing. Our town, we practice these good habits and good directives from our scientists and medical people, but around the country, that's not happening. And I think it's very unfortunate. We've had negative leadership that's encouraged people to actually not wear masks or not congregate, to congregate. I mean, it's just, the example set from the top was very, very bad. And I always talk about Washington because I think a lot emanates from there. And I teach about this. It's really important that our residents practice these safeguards and then get that vaccine when it's available. The county's doing a great job of setting up different regional centers, and we were there today in West Orange at the Kmart. But nationally, if we could really just focus a second, if you could all just do what you can to help, we've got to have a government that helps us. The Washington government can print money. They can just go into deficit. We can't. We have to balance our budget and live within our limits. but we always used to get more money for CDBG years ago. Then it was cut. We've never gotten the full funding for the IDEA Act, which is Individuals Disabilities Education Act, and great idea, but they never funded it 40% fully. As Sean knows well, it's been 12% at the most. If we could just all lobby the Washington people. Now, our Congress people are great. You know, we've got great people, Mikey Sherrill and Donald Payne Jr., and we've got Senator Menendez and Senator Booker, but if you've got people anywhere else, I've got a good friend that lives up in Maine, and I've got people in Maine, you know, trying to push Susan Collins to do the right thing, which she's kind of doing now, you know. I think if we can get enough people of both parties together to start working on getting aid to our communities, aid to our small businesses, aid to our schools, our communities need this help, this funding. It happened 6 months ago for a few minutes. You know, we had people all working together. But we do have some very negative folks out there. I was warned today by my own doctor, who was a sort of a Trump supporter, and he said to me, you know, I really don't think that this is good, because there's people out there with guns now saying they won't accept the new president, they won't accept the new vice president, they won't accept the results. Well, people with guns, you know what they can do. I got into politics when President Kennedy was in office and he was killed, and that inspired me to continue. We don't want to see that kind of violence, but that's what we seem to be facing. We have a lot of negative people around the country, even in our own areas here, that they don't believe in this society's transfer of power. So let's hope it all works out in Georgia and in the Congress, and that people can transfer peacefully to a new leadership. And I just want to extend my congratulations to President Biden and Vice President Harris. I wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank everybody for all your work and wishes this year, because I lost my mother to this COVID, and that was back in April. So I think that I've had a tremendous impact on my family from this, and I want everybody to get that vaccine and stay well, do the social distancing and all the safeguards, so we can all be happier and safer and healthier in the new year. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jacobellis.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to go back to the the early part of the evening, I think these roles take us behind the curtain and take what are normally, I think, names and numbers on a piece of paper and brings it to life. So it's really heartbreaking, I think, and heavy to hear just how real the pandemic is, and all these other societal issues that exist outside of the pandemic. And definitely be a challenging decision, I think, in terms of how those funds are allocated. In terms of the Burnside residents that called in too, my hope is to just, we don't have much power, right, other than our voice and our votes. So my hope is to add whatever I can, and I'm willing to learn the history there and the issues there, and maybe help think creatively about other solutions, just to alleviate what is a real-time problem and only seeming to get worse by macro conditions, not necessarily related to the township, but just the incredible rain and the precipitation levels that we're having, that I think are a departure from the norm. Shout out to the planning board members, and in particular you, Mayor, and Councilwoman Schlager. I cannot believe the about face that the planning board has taken on the Safe Complete Streets adoption, and I can't help but think that has a whole lot to do with you guys and your leadership. So can't thank you enough. I think that's a really incredible statement of values for the town, that we are going to consider pedestrians and bicycle riders and people with disabilities as important as cars on the roads and in our designs going forward. So huge shout out to you guys for that. The number one issue that's on my mind, and what I want to just say to residents of Montclair, is to really be conscious around mental health, and not just, we say a lot about checking on your neighbors and checking on each other and your friends, but about your own too. We are all going through trauma and have all been experiencing trauma all year long. This is all a traumatic experience for all of us, and just to be conscious of that and be kind to yourself, and be what it is doing to us. And lastly, just to, you're all like an inch on my screen on my computer. I wish these are one of those moments I wish we were in person. I want to just say to each of you, Brian, Tim, Angelise, Ira, all my colleagues on the council, I appreciate the engagement that we've had thus far, and everything that I'm learning from engaging with all of you, whether those are, arguments or they're opportunities to learn something. I appreciate all those engagements and how you are helping me grow as an individual. So thank you and happy holidays.
Same to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, you're, I think, the same inch on my screens as well. So as I look around, but this is the new way, right? We all have to connect like this. But with that, I certainly will also just note a few things. Councilman, as you note with the actions at the planning board, I certainly commend my colleague there as well, to see that work done. I'm glad to see the others that have put so much time into that. I know even our freeholder, now Commissioner President Brendan Gill, has been leading that for a lot of years, and certainly being relatively new to the planning board myself. And I know Councilman Schlager helped shepherding things. Finally able to see that take action. I do have to give a specific shout out, Eliana Richardson, who reached out. She sent me a little card, which was nice, with her little drawings of why we need some of these pieces. So that was really nice. So give her a shout out. Thank you so much for sending me that. And she's a much better artist than I am. So of course you have to listen when someone can send you that. So also want to give and note, it's been really nice to receive a lot of different letters. I'm not going to read them all, but in places like Montclair Tutoring, I'm looking at the Human Needs Food Pantry, even places like the Montclair Film, all sending a letter thanking all of us for really the work we're doing with the small grants, business grants, and helping in all those ways. We've gotten numerous letters. I know oftentimes somebody might call in or reach out when they're frustrated, but this was really nice that a number of people took the time to literally send a number of correspondence saying they were appreciative of the things that we've been doing around helping to support their efforts during these difficult times. So I wanted to give them a shout out and also make sure you guys were all aware of some of those pieces. As was noted before, the big event that we that all had just before this, and great to see all my colleagues there, and Mr. Stafford, you there, and Sue there from our health department, as was noted, who does such a great job every day. She was able to join, and others from the town, first responders. Really was just a culmination of, first and foremost, recognizing we're not there yet, right? We still have to engage in all the practices that have kept us as best we can safe so far. We've got to continue that. We're months away from wide distribution and where we need to be, that 75% number that Councilman noted, and certainly our county executive noted. But we could at least see that we're getting there, right? It was nice to see that distribution center set up, and I think it really was just an example of what good government is all about. It was a coordination from the local level with the local staff and governance, and then whether it be direct connection to the county and then the state, and certainly our governor's been excellent in some of this as well. Really pulling all that together to make sure we're prepared for that distribution, make sure we get people vaccinated. That's where it's really going to matter. And we still have a big role to play, making sure we're conveying to people and showing that it is safe, that it needs to be done, that we need to make sure the quicker we do some of these pieces and can get back to then a sense of what we were used to in the past. And as I'll say, then we roll into the new year, because for me, until we get that really accomplished, this is all like one long 2020, unfortunately, but hopefully we get to that point sooner than later, but we can see we're getting there. And so a big kudos to everybody at home, everybody out there, because you've been doing your part. Sacrifices have been made by so many, and really just to get us to the place where we can be prepared for that vaccine, and then of course get the benefits from it. To that end, it should be noted, Sue will be joining me on Thursday along with Mr. Stafford and 3 medical doctors from Mountainside. We're going to get
Are all of you not hearing anything?
Can't hear anything now.
Yeah, okay.
I lost Sean and can't see
Yeah.
Tim either.
Yeah, we lost Sean.
And Tim.
Well, I don't know if Tim went off to tell Sean he was being heard, perhaps. It seemed like that.
Well, they're in the building, right? Well, Tim's back.
Oh. Mr. Stafford.
The mayor is having technical difficulties. Mr. Fan is working to get his computer back up. Just bear with us for 1 second.
Okay.
Or a few seconds.
You know, the mayor mentioned the planning board. When I became planning board attorney in 2006, Brendan Gill was on the planning board. Way back when. Everybody has a history. Yeah. Plenty. We have a quorum. We could adjourn.
There you are, Mayor. We see you.
Look at that, I'm back. So I appreciate that. I know that it was you, Mr. Stafford, that pulled my plug on my computer there. So thank you very much for that. But, you know, as I was saying, and I apologize for the delay there. And I see Mr. Stafford's away from his computer, so I'm sure you're coming over to do more shenanigans to my connection here. But just want to say, in all seriousness, on Thursday, we do have an event. I'm pretty happy Sue will be there to help talk about this vaccine, what the health department is doing. Mr. Stafford, you as well. We've got 3 doctors from Mountainside who are joining as well, and some task force co-chairs who will also be on to really talk about this vaccine, where we're at, you know, why it's important to get it, what are all the details around it. Mr. Stafford, while we're over there today, yes, on the kickoff, it's important for people to know, to the best of our ability, knowing things are going to change, but what the plan is for Montclair, the vaccination site, how that's going to work, where residents are going to be asked to go, how they're going to be followed up with, as was noted today at our press conference, the follow-ups that are going to occur to make sure people come back and get the second shot, what that's going to look like. What age range are we talking people who should be getting this? Meaning what age kids, you know, how young, et cetera. So all of these things are conversation pieces and important information that we're going to try and share out on Thursday morning. So if you are available, I know we put it out on the township. It's on our website for people to sign up for that as well. So please do so if you're interested in getting more information about that. So certainly some important pieces there as well. We talk about this dynamic and the challenge that we're facing, and really, I think a testament to what good government looks like, that coordinational levels. Really happy to see from the county's perspective. I'm looking at the latest check, one of them for CARES dollars of $331,481, which is significant to kind of help us do some of the things that we'd able to do. So really appreciative of those things. And the support still comes in from the state. Looking at another one for $465,000, which is to do, Councilwoman Schlager, to one of the questions you talked about a little earlier on the bill list, the fountain and some of the work and the streetscape that's happening there. You're able to get those dollars in. And we know right on the horizon, the county has committed another $8 million dollars to do our streetlights, and those dollars have come in to do the streetlights along Bloomfield Ave and all those intersections that have to be taken care of. You know, these things still continue to happen. So even as our deputy mayor kind of put the emphasis point on with Mr. Stafford's comments before, that infrastructure work, the investment and reinvestment in our community continues even during this difficult time. We're trying to be good shepherds here as we move through this on a lot of different fronts. I certainly want to commend my colleagues for doing all that you can, all that we can collectively to kind of priority first and foremost, as we know as public servants, help people, but also making sure that we're doing the things that sometimes are not seen as often, but have long-term positive impacts. So that work continues as well. So I will say, listen, we're close, right? We're close with this, but close means a few months still, right? So it's a few months of what we still have to do as you enjoy your holidays. And certainly I wish each and every one of you a happy holidays, a happy and healthy and safe holidays as you enjoy with your small immediate family, hopefully, but connecting broadly with friends virtually and otherwise. Certainly just say, hang in there. We know the fatigue that exists, but let's get through this safely. Let's get through this together. Let's make sure we're all healthy. And we're all talking about this in the past at some point, and really being thankful that we're able to get back to that normal, get back to with family and friends who have all held hands and made sure we've come through this together. So I wish everybody in this meeting before the holidays here and during the holidays a very happy and healthy holidays. I wish you all a happy and healthy new year, and we're all excited to begin that new year and get into a place where we can really finally feel this pandemic is behind us. So a big thank you to everybody, and thanks everybody for tonight for the meeting. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Happy holidays, everyone, and congrats again.
Take care. Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.